Chapter 986. Good chance. Lin Muyu dashed forward and struck Fuzhu's side 3 times before he could turn around. The blade was filled with the divine power of the elephant will from the shapeless elephant incantation. The divine sword was indestructible and quickly broke through the divine beast chi shield. 3 large wounds appeared on the side of Fuzhu's body. Several of Fuzhu's ribs were broken, and his bloody internal organs could be vaguely seen. Roar! Fuzhu howled in agony as he retreated rapidly. His sharp horn slammed into the boulder with all his might, creating a large hole in the boulder as he escaped. Catch up to him, or we won't have a chance to kill him. Shi Yan shouted. Tang Xiaoxi's injuries were more serious. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin flew out with their swords in hand. Fuzhu stepped on the waves and rejoiced like a fish in water. His injuries seemed to be healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lin Muyu was in for a penny, in for a pound. She took out a blood-red thread from her Qingquan pouch and threw it out. The thread twirled in the air and finally fell down, binding Fuzhu's injured body tightly. It was none other than the spirit-binding rope she brought out from the ghost realm. Now it came in handy. Swoosh! The Xianyuan sword flew out of Fuzhu's hand and spun rapidly with intense flames. It went straight for Fuzhu's head. This attack was bound to pierce through his brain. When that happened, this almost sentient divine beast would not be able to escape death. But at this moment, Fuzhu suddenly knelt on the surface of the water and shouted, "Young hero, please spare me." Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sharp edge of the Xianyuan sword stopped less than 5 centimeters away from Fuzhu's forehead. Lin Muyu controlled the sword with her qi and laughed. Why? Didn't you want to harm us? Why are you suddenly begging for mercy? Fuzhu panted heavily. His body curled up and crawled on the surface of the water. He once again transformed into the appearance of a handsome man. However, he was no longer as cheerful as before. On the contrary, he cut a sorry figure. Especially the wound on his chest, it was a little scary. He crawled on the ground and said, "Young hero, this little critter admits defeat." "I admit defeat." Qin Yin spread her golden wings and slowly descended. She looked at it coldly with her flaming eyes and said, "You're so cunning. How do we know you're not playing tricks?" Fuzhu coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of blood into the water. "This little critter's heart meridian has been damaged. I can't use saint energy at all. I've lost. If I continue to fight, I'm afraid I'll end up with my head separated from my body." Just like what this lady said, this little critter has intelligence that ordinary people can't even imagine. So I can't fight anymore. This little critter admits defeat. Admit defeat? Lin Muyu smiled and said, "You should also know that the reason we're here is to eliminate you, the scourge. You're a beast, and we're humans. Even if you admit defeat, we'll still kill you." At this moment, Shi Yan and Tang Xiaoxi floated out from the damaged stone house behind them. They saw Fuzhu in his human form kneeling on the ground from afar. Their faces were filled with shock. They had no idea what was going on. "Young hero." Fuzhu suddenly raised both his hands, his entire body almost touching the surface of the water. "This little critter is willing to submit completely to you, young hero. Please believe in this little critter's words." "No way." The Xianyuan sword in Lin Muyu's hand was enshrouded with golden divine energy. His power surged once again. He grinned miserably and said, "In order to kill you, almost all of us were injured. You want us to forgive you just because you prostrated yourself? Dream on. Your 4 horns are very rich with divine energy. If we refine them, our cultivation will increase by a lot. Do you want to pluck them out yourself, or do you want me to do it for you?" Fuzhu was shocked. "Young hero." "Ah no, exalted goddess, please forgive this little critter. These 4 horns are the essence of this little critter's cultivation. If you pluck them out, this little critter will become an ordinary spiritual beast. Exalted goddess, please forgive me. This little critter is willing to make a deal with the exalted goddess." "A deal?" Lin Muyu smiled. "Tell me, what do you want to exchange for your 4 horns?" Fuzhu slowly got up and kneeled on the surface of the water. His face was stained with blood as he said, "This little critter is willing to use the lair of gods and demons in exchange for these 4 horns." The lair of gods and demons? Qin Yin frowned slightly. What's that? Where is it? The lair of gods and demons is right under this river. Fuzhou coughed a few more times and said, "The lair of gods and demons is an ice cave with an extremely cold temperature. An ordinary person would freeze to death within the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. However, the extreme cold in the lair of gods and demons allows a deity's thoughts to remain clear. The abundant spiritual energy also has a miraculous effect on cultivation. This lair of gods and demons used to be a secret cultivation place that everyone in the 64 domains yearned to go to. However, it has always been hidden from the world and no one knows about it. This little critter only discovered it by chance and caused a flood to flood this place so that it could cultivate alone in the lair of gods and demons. As long as the exalted goddess is willing to spare this little critter's life, this little critter is willing to offer the lair of gods and demons to the exalted goddess." Lin Muyu remained silent. She couldn't make up her mind for a moment. However, Shi Yan raised her brows and smiled. "Give the lair of gods and demons to us? Who knows what you're thinking? Will you suddenly launch a sneak attack and kill us all in the lair of gods and demons? Even if you have to give up the lair of gods and demons, you must stay with us. Moreover, your infamy has already spread throughout the 64 domains. Do you think we'll let you go?" Fuzhou shuddered. "Little critter. Little critter. Exalted goddess, do you still want to kill this little critter?" "No, we don't have to kill him." Shi Yan shook her head and smiled. "How about this? You sign a master-servant contract. You'll never betray him. Otherwise, you'll suffer 1,000 heavenly tribulations and die. This way, we won't have to worry about you harming us." Fuzhou was aghast. "Master-servant contract? Why? You're not willing? Do you think that you isn't worthy of being your master?" Shi Yan's beautiful eyes shot out murderous intent. "No, that's not it." Fuzhou hurriedly knelt down again and said, "This exalted goddess's power contains an awe-inspiring righteousness and the power of the 12 laws. He's definitely a supreme. Moreover, the weapon in his hand is the peerless divine artifact, the Xianyuan sword." Little critter, so you know everything." Lin Muyu looked at him coldly. Fuzhou said piously, "Exalted goddess, this little critter is willing to be your divine servant. I only ask for my life." Lin Muyu did not object. She nodded and said, "Sister Xian, how do we settle this master-servant contract?" Shi Yan smiled. "It's like a divine contract. There's no need for bloodline fusion. We only need one-sided allegiance. Fuzhou, kneel down and repeat my words to Lin Muyu." "Yes, exalted goddess." Fuzhou knelt in front of Lin Muyu. He raised his handsome face and followed Shi Yan's words. "I, Fuzhou of the 64 domains, am willing to be loyal to exalted goddess Lin Muyu for life. No matter how the world revolves, the sun and the moon change, I will do my best and never repent." After the conversation, Fuzhou's entire body trembled. Rays of golden light seeped into his body. Shi Yan said, "You, place your sword on Fuzhou's shoulder and hit him 3 times. "Oh." Lin Muyu was stunned. That does sound like a Western knight's salute. The master-servant contract has always been a rule of the Western divine realm. Quick, cut the nonsense. All right. He unsheathed the Xianyuan sword and gently struck it against Fuzhou's shoulder 3 times. These 3 strikes were like a shock to Fuzhou's soul. The Xianyuan sword was a divine weapon, but it was also a murderous weapon. Fuzhou had experienced its power, and the 3 strikes of the Xianyuan sword were like a warning, as well as a threat. If he betrayed his oath, he would surely die a horrible death. At the same time, Lin Muyu felt a faint power enter her wrist through the Xianyuan sword. It was indescribably strange, but it did not affect her at all. "The contract is complete." Shi Yan smiled. "All right, Fuzhou, you can now follow us to the lair of gods and demons." "Yes." "Wait. Lin Muyu frowned at Fuzhu. What is it, master? Fuzhu asked respectfully. Lin Muyu looked at his face and said, you can change your appearance at will, can't you? Yes. I can change my appearance to that of a human, and I can also change my appearance to that of a plant. Everything in the world has its laws and principles, and I'm only peeking at a part of it. Then make your face uglier. That won't do. Why? Because this little beast is born with such a handsome face. It can't be uglier. This is already the ugliest form, Fuzhu said seriously. Lin Muyu really wanted to slap this shameless divine beast to death. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi giggled. Qin Yin said, if we bring Fuzhu back to Lanyan City, who knows how many girls will suffer because of his stinky appearance. Yes. Lin Muyu was very worried. Shi Yan smiled and shook her head. No, you don't have to worry about that. Why? Because Fuzhu is an ancient vicious beast. He wasn't born at all. It's said that he was born from the gathering of the essence of heaven and earth, so Fuzhu doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Am I right? Shi Yan looked at Fuzhu with ridicule. Fuzhu blushed. Master Blazing Angel is right. This little beast is only the crystallization of the spiritual essence of the world. It doesn't have the ability to procreate. Lin Muyu looked at him speechlessly. So you're a eunuch from the primordial secret realm, that's right, master. But the word eunuch isn't appropriate. To be more precise, this little beast is a pure beast that isn't tainted by filth and has no emotions or desires. Lin Muyu didn't want to listen to his nonsense anymore. Hurry up and take us to the cave of gods and demons. Stop talking nonsense. Yes, master. Fuzhu took a deep breath and looked at the ocean in front of him. He suddenly shouted, divide the water. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the whirlpool in front of them spun, and a tunnel leading to the depths of the water appeared in the blink of an eye. Divide the water? Interesting. Lin Muyu smiled. Fuzhu said respectfully, this little beast can control the rivers of the world and rule over all bodies of water. Divide the water is just a small trick. Please forgive me, master. Chapter 987. Following the whirlpool, they flew deeper and deeper into the ocean, to the point where even light couldn't penetrate. Lin Muyu had no choice but to unsheath the Xianyuan sword. Immediately, the radiance of the divine sword illuminated the tunnel for nearly 100 meters. After flying for an unknown period of time, the surroundings became colder and colder. Very quickly, after passing through several hundred meters of rock stratum, the surrounding water no longer flowed and froze into ice. It's so cold. Qin Yin whispered. Yeah. Lin Muyu nodded. He had to summon his divine energy to resist the cold. Just like him, Qin Yin, Shi Yan, and Tang Xiaoxi also used their own energy to resist the cold. Clatter, clatter, a few pieces of red ice fell from Fuzhu's sleeves, creating a slight sound in the ice tunnel. What's that? Lin Muyu asked. Oh, it's the blood that flowed out of the little critter's lungs. It's frozen and fell down. It's fine. Fuzhu looked as if he was fine. The vitality of a divine beast was indeed strong. If it was any other person, they would have already lost consciousness. But looking at him, it seemed like he was completely fine. Lin Muyu was speechless. He couldn't be bothered to care about him anymore. He brought the three beauties with him and continued flying. After flying for about 5 minutes, the surroundings became unbelievably cold. The air they exhaled turned into ice in the blink of an eye. Even Lin Muyu's hand that was holding the sword was a little stiff. We're here. Fuzhu muttered. In front of them, there was a huge circular wall. It seemed to be a dead end. Fuzhu flew forward and gently pushed on the huge ice wall. Immediately, it opened with a rumble. A wave of cold air rushed out. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others thought that it was already cold outside. Only now did they understand the true meaning of cold. Even Qin Yin, who was close to the God Emperor level, was moaning from the cold. She turned around and looked at Lin Muyu. She wanted to hug him to keep him warm, but it was too embarrassing. After a moment of hesitation, she decided to use her divine energy to resist the cold. Fuzhou said, "Master, come in. We've arrived at the cave of gods and demons." "Yes." Lin Muyu stepped into the cave of gods and demons and saw that it was a completely different world inside. Pillars of ice towered into the sky, supporting the entire cave of gods and demons. Divine power runes floated on each ice pillar. She couldn't understand the runes, but they seemed to be ancient characters. The existence of these ice pillars seemed to have the effect of sealing the power within the cave of gods and demons. There were more than 20 ice beds beneath the ice pillars. The entire cave of gods and demons was like a great hall, spacious and quiet. Along with the extreme cold came an abundance of spiritual energy. Just as Fuzhou said, the spiritual energy here was several times that of the outside world. So cold, Tang Xiaoxi summoned the raging flame and held it in front of her chest. The water on her forehead had frozen into ice and hung on the ends of her hair. Lin Muyu took out the communicator that Lulu had given her. It flashed with a fluorescent light and said, "Measure the temperature." Lulu's voice came through. -273 degrees Celsius. "Big brother, where are you? How can you reach such a low temperature?" "Boo-hoo, Lulu doesn't feel well. I can't contact Big Brother." As she spoke, her voice became intermittent, and the image disappeared. So cold that the electronic equipment had malfunctioned? Lin Muyu was speechless. However, this temperature was very frightening. -273 degrees Celsius. Wasn't this the legendary absolute zero? This was the limit of temperature that matter could reach. Fortunately, this was the divine realm. Otherwise, it would be hard to imagine what kind of physics could produce such a temperature. Fuzhou was already slowly crawling on an ice bed. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into his beast form. He said, "Master, don't waste time. In the cave of gods and demons, you can maintain a state of complete enlightenment. No matter how much pain your body has to endure, you won't faint. So, you should treasure your time because you won't have much time in the cave of gods and demons." "Why?" Lin Muyu asked. Fuzhou smiled. "With this little beast's cultivation, it can only cultivate for 6 hours in the cave of gods and demons. After that, it will have to go out and get some fresh air. How long does Master think you can last?" Alright, now that he put it that way, it made sense. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi were fine, but Shi Yan wasn't so good. The absolute zero made her very uncomfortable. She was already forcefully activating her king's battle flame to maintain her body temperature. Everyone stopped talking and each found a bed of ice to meditate and cultivate. Lin Muyu's formless elephant art had already reached the 3rd stage, 100 elephants beheading demon. As she circulated her art, golden elephant wheels revolved around her body. It was a spectacular sight. At the same time, the Supreme Godhead shone brightly, providing its master with the power to resist the cold. As the elephant wheels revolved inside her body, her power would increase slightly with every revolution. In the Shattered Cauldron realm, an elephant wheel would take at least 2 hours to complete a full revolution. However, in the Cave of Gods and Demons, Lin Muyu was surprised to find that a full revolution actually took less than 20 minutes. On the side, Qin Yin was sitting on an ice bed in a dignified manner. She was chanting the incantation of Shi Yan's 7 slashes. Miniature dragon crystals revolved around her. She was still able to control the absolute zero for the time being. Tang Xiaoxi was relatively more relaxed. She was chanting the Great Flame Art, and Lord-level flames continuously circulated around her. The 9 flame tails behind her slowly stretched out, looking extremely beautiful. Very soon, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi began to enjoy the cultivation process. In the past, when they were cultivating, their emotions would always be controlled by the manic power when they were trying to break through the great heavenly cycle. However, it was not the case this time. The absolute zero temperature and abundant spiritual power perfectly solved this problem, allowing the cultivation to be twice as effective with half the effort. However, in less than an hour, Xian's body suddenly trembled slightly, and her face turned a little pale. "Are you okay, Sister Xian?" Lin Muyu opened her eyes and asked. Xian was a little embarrassed. "I can't. I'm still too weak now. My bloodline is about to freeze. Send me out." "Okay." Lin Muyu nodded. "Fuzhu, send Lord Blazing Angel out." "Yes, Master." Fuzhu raised his 4 hooves and walked over. He lowered his front hooves and made a kneeling posture. Meanwhile, Xian happily rode on this divine beast and flew out of the cave of gods and demons in the blink of an eye. Under such low temperatures, the spatial walls were already frozen. Even the ability to break through the void couldn't be used here. Qin Yin was the second person who couldn't hold on, but she was much better than Xian. She lasted for a whole 5 hours, which was beyond Fuzhu's expectations. On the other hand, Tang Xiaoxi lasted for 6 hours, which was the same amount of time as Fuzhu. After everyone left the cave of gods and demons, only Lin Muyu was left in the entire cave of gods and demons. Before they left, Qin Yin had told them not to force themselves. However, Lin Muyu really didn't force herself. The Supreme Lattice continuously provided energy to replenish the body's lack of temperature. The elephant will tower in her EC continued to spin, and the strength of the divine power in her body also increased. This made Lin Muyu feel very comfortable. In the blink of an eye, it was already midnight. The heaven and earth were silent, and the water around the mountain gradually receded. This was Lin Muyu's idea. Fuzhu killing wild hunters for his own cultivation wasn't a good thing. At the foot of the mountain, Qin Yin, Xian, Tang Xiaoxi, and Fuzhu stared at the entrance of the cave of gods and demons from afar. "Big brother, you still hasn't come out." Qin Yin was a little worried. "Will something happen to him?" "No, Shao Yin, don't worry so much." Xian smiled. "You, on the other hand, have made a lot of progress in your cultivation, and the strength of your divine power has increased a lot. Yes, I plan to break through to the 59th Grotto Heaven stage tomorrow. Big brother Yu's progress is about the same." "No, you might be faster." Xian's beautiful eyes looked into the distance. "That brat still isn't willing to come out. I suspect that he wants to break through to the 59th Grotto Heaven stage today." "It can't be so fast. What do you think?" "The environment of the cave of gods and demons is unconventional, and ordinary people can't withstand it. But he's different. His sovereign disposition is tyrannical, and he can adapt to the harsh environment. Cultivating in the cave of gods and demons, this brat is like a fish in water." Yes, at this moment, a few tyrannical auras suddenly appeared in the sky. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 figures flew over and stopped in the air like flowing lights. One of them said respectfully, "Lord Blazing Angel, I thought something happened to you, so I brought people over to take a look." It was the Spirit Sparrow Region Lord, Feng Zhanlin, and even Feng Zhanhai had come. Xian chuckled. "How could anything happen? We just found a good place to cultivate here, so we can't bear to leave. Don't worry, Region Lord, please go back. We are fine here, and we will naturally go back when we want to." "Yes." Feng Zhanlin nodded respectfully, but Feng Zhanhai's gaze fell on Fuzhu. He immediately recognized him and shouted, "Evil creature, so you're here too. Lord Blazing Angel, don't be fooled by this Fuzhu." Xian couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry, Fuzhu has already been subdued by you." "Ah." Feng Zhanlin was stunned. "You mean, Lin General has already subdued this savage beast?" "Yes." Feng Zhanlin immediately said with respect, "Lin General is indeed extraordinary. He actually tamed an ancient savage beast like Fuzhu, how rare. Who would have thought that Fuzhu would stare at the sky with an unruly expression?" He pointed at Feng Zhanhai and said, "I recognize you, the trash that was beaten to a pulp by me last time. How about it, do you want to fight again?" I'll let you see what it means to be the overlord of the water. Feng Zhanlin's face was ashen. Did he really tame it? Of course. Shi Yan's beautiful eyes turned cold. Fuzhu, behave yourself. They are all Yu's friends. If you continue to be so arrogant, I'll have you send you to the Spirit Sparrow region as a watchdog. Fuzhu's body trembled, and its demeanor became tamed. Lord Blazing Angel, this lowly beast knows its mistake. Please don't let Master send me to be a watchdog. This lowly beast is an ancient divine hound. Pfft, an ancient divine beast. I can't afford to lose face like that. Humph, then wait here obediently for you to come out. Yes. Chapter 988. He's out. Fuzhu exclaimed softly at once. Sure enough, a figure flew out from the depths of the cave of gods and demons like a stream of light, instantly appearing in front of everyone. It was Lin Muyu, but at this moment, his entire body was covered in icicles, and his face was covered in a thick layer of frost. With a shake, all the frost fell off, revealing a radiant face underneath. Congratulations, you. Looks like you've broken through again. Shi Yan said cheerfully. Yes, that's right. The Blazing Angel's eyes were sharp to be able to see through this. Lin Muyu nodded and said, I just broke through to the 59th level of Grotto Heaven not long ago. I originally wanted to cultivate for a while longer, but I really couldn't hold on any longer. It's freezing inside, and if I don't come out soon, I'm afraid I'll turn into a lump of ice. Are you alright? Qin Yin held his hand and felt a bone-piercing chill coming from Lin Muyu's body. Cultivating in the absolute zero space of the cave of gods and demons for a whole 11 hours was really something that no one else could do. The chill in Lin Muyu's body couldn't dissipate in a few minutes, so he had to stay in the outside world for a while. Otherwise, he would be advancing prematurely, and it would harm his body instead. I'm fine. Lin Muyu gently held Qin Yin's hand and looked up at Feng Zhanlin and the others. Domain Lord, why are you here too? We've been waiting for Lin General's return for a long time, so we were very worried, but we didn't expect Lin General to successfully tame a beast like Fuzhu. This is truly a cause for celebration. It's everyone's credit, not just mine. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment, then said, Domain Lord Feng, you can go back first. I want to stay here and cultivate for a few more days, until I break through to the God Emperor realm before returning to the Spirit Sparrow Castle. Is that okay? Of course, Feng Zhanlin said respectfully. Then, this subordinate will return to the Spirit Sparrow Castle to wait for Lin General. All right. Feng Zhanlin and the others flew away in the blink of an eye. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, Why did Moose suddenly decide not to leave? We don't even have a place to stay here. Are we going to continue living in the wilderness? Yes, I do. Lin Muyu spread her hands and said, Actually, it doesn't matter even if I have to eat and sleep in the wilderness. As long as I can step into the God Emperor realm as soon as possible, it will be fine. I can feel the power in my body increasing by leaps and bounds. The invisible elephant art can increase my divine power by 1,000th with every great circulation, and 6,000th with every hour. As long as my power increases by another 10%, I can try to break through to the God Emperor realm. So, I need about 16 hours to break through to the God Emperor realm. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were dumbfounded. They didn't expect Lin Muyu to describe cultivation in such a digital way. On the other hand, Shi Yan seemed to be used to it. She said, Yes, it's good to advance quickly, but you should rest well tonight. Otherwise, your body won't be able to take it. After all, your godhead is a supreme godhead, but your body is still just an ordinary godhead. But this is a vast swamp. Where should we go to rest? Fuzhu hurriedly said, Master, I know a good place to rest. There is an abandoned palace at the top of this mountain. 1,000 years ago, it was the domain castle of the ancient desolate domain. After it was conquered, it was abandoned. The entire ancient desolate domain moved north. Although this palace is abandoned, it can at least shelter us from the wind and rain. all right. Lin Muyu's face lit up. Let's go. Bring us there immediately. Oh right, do you have anything to eat? I'm so hungry. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. Yes, yes, yes. I have some dried meat in my spatial bag. Just cook it for a while. She should have some spirit fruits as after-dinner fruits. Big brother don't you have some blankets? Rest is not a problem. Yes, all right. After everyone flew to the top of the mountain, there was indeed a dilapidated palace. The entire palace used to be as wide as a temple, but after 1,000 years, most of it had been corroded by time. Only the palm-sized main hall was left standing on the mountain peak. The main hall was covered in dust and spider webs. It made people feel like they were visiting the ancient times. Wind. Lin Muyu was the first to step into the main hall. A strong wind swept through the hall, blowing away the spider webs and the dust on the ground. Then, she said, Fuzhu, wash the floor. Yes, master. Fuzhu muttered to himself. Waves of blue ripples in his palm turned into a stream of water that swept across the floor, washing away all the dust in the great hall. Immediately, the shiny floor tiles were revealed. No one would have thought that the floor tiles of this dilapidated great hall were actually made of some unknown crystal. They were very flat, sparkling and translucent. You can live in it after it's dried, Lin Muyu said. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. I'll do it. I'm good at this. As she spoke, she raised her delicate palm and swept it in an arc towards the hall in front of her. Instantly, a rain of fire descended. It didn't stick close to the ground, but instead hovered 10 centimeters above the ground. In less than 10 minutes, all the water on the ground had been dried up, and the entire hall became warm and cozy. Lin Muyu took out 2 blankets and laid them on the ground. This would be a place to lie down at night. Fuzhu had always been used to sleeping in the open. He couldn't help but laugh. You humans are really interesting. You're so particular about where you live. I've never slept in such a thing before. No one said you're going to sleep. Lin Muyu glanced at him. These 2 blankets, Xiao Yin and I will use one. Xiao Shi and Sister Xian will use the other. As for you, Fuzhu, you need to stand guard outside at night. What if someone sneaks up on you? Fuzhu shuddered. This is too much of a violation of my human rights. You're a beast. What human rights are you talking about? Protecting your master is your duty. Once you're full, you'll be in charge of the night watch. Yes, master. The supper was very sumptuous. 2 pots of food were cooked. It seemed that everyone in the cave of gods and demons had used up a lot of their energy. It was understandable that they ate so much. Fuzhu sat under the starry sky outside the main hall in an elegant robe. He looked at the dazzling stars. As a sentinel, his heart was filled with mixed feelings. He couldn't help but sing loudly. Carrying the elegance of the ancients, I stand alone. Bukanglan's waves are unyielding and unyielding. The heavens favor my living beings, only the world cannot. As he sang, Lin Muyu's sleepy voice came from the main hall. Shut up, Fuzhu immediately stopped singing. He sat on a rock and looked at the receding tide with boredom. The tips of his feet rubbed against the ground, drawing the outline of the mountains and rivers. Whoosh! A sharp sword shot out from the main hall and landed on the ground where Fuzhu had just been. If you don't behave, I'll cut off your hoof next time, Lin Muyu said. Fuzhu felt that he had no human rights. But after thinking about it carefully, he realized that he had done a lot of evil over the years. Now that he had met such a cruel and ruthless master, it was really karma. Far away in the celestial pole, under the starry sky of the shattered cauldron realm, everything seemed unusually peaceful. Lin Muyu and the others had already ascended to the prehistoric mystic realm for nearly a month, but only 3 days had passed in the human world. Under the starry sky, Lanyan City still stood firmly under the firmament, but the undercurrents in the city were affecting everyone. In the side hall of the Zhe Tian Palace, the Imperial Army's meeting hall. The candlelight swayed violently under the wind. Feng Jixing sat on the general's seat and looked at everyone calmly. Wei Chou, Zhang Wei, Situ Sen, Qin Yan, and the others were almost all present. "How's the mobilization going?" Feng Jixing asked. 1 out of 5, the feudal vassals can't say anything. Situ Sen said, "We've mobilized 100,000 soldiers from the imperial army and they're all gathered in the camp south of the city. But what should we do next?" Did Lin General say anything to General Feng before he left? Feng Jixing smiled. Yes. Wei Chou, Zhang Wei, and the others pricked up their ears. "We're all ears." Feng Jixing said, "You once had a secret discussion with me. We can't be too hasty in solving the problems of the imperial army. There are 3 steps. The first step is to mobilize the troops, which has already been completed. The second step is to grant amnesty, the third step is to donate money to buy merits, and the fourth step is to hide the bough after all the birds have been killed." Everyone was baffled by what they heard. Zhang Wei said, "Commander, we're all uncouth men. It's better for you to speak more clearly. Otherwise, we won't understand at all." "All right, to put it simply." Feng Jixing's handsome face carried a smile as he looked at everyone. "The second step is to grant amnesty to soldiers who are below the age of 18 and above the age of 45, have 2 elders in their families, and have only 1 son. They'll be allowed to retire and return to farming. I've done some research. This way, we'll be able to reduce the strength of the imperial army by at least another 100,000 soldiers. The third step is to donate money. The commander, deputy commander, captaincy, and other high-ranking generals in the imperial army have no military merits. Therefore, the Ministry of War will issue a military merit register. Those who have no military merits but want to retain their military rank will have to donate large amounts of gold and silver. This way, we'll be able to obtain another sum of military funds from the feudal vassals. The fourth step is to hide the bough after all the birds have been killed. This is even simpler. Half a year is enough for us to digest these 500,000 soldiers. After that, Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others will no longer have any value." "But what?" Situ Sen's brows were tightly knitted. "But get rid of them." Feng Jixing placed his palm in front of his neck. His meaning was self-evident. "This is also Lin General's idea?" Wei Chou was stunned. Feng Jixing nodded. "Yes. Do you think that you doesn't want to kill these rebellious traitors? It's just that the time isn't right yet." Situ Sen was delighted. "Since that's the case, that's great. Leave the bough after all the birds have been killed to me. I was just thinking of avenging those dragons of mine. Don't be too hasty on this matter. We still have to take it step by step." "Yes. Tomorrow, the special amnesty will be announced in the parliament. Apart from that, the scholars selected from all over the country are about to arrive. Tomorrow, they'll announce that we'll join the parliament and become one of its members." "Yes, I understand." Wei Chou nodded happily. Feng Jixing suddenly stood up and said, "Tomorrow's matter is of great importance. Everyone must proceed with caution. Zhang Wei, mobilize 50,000 imperial guards to guard every gate of the imperial capital. Do not let any troops enter or leave. Situ Sen, mobilize 30,000 Longdan army camp and surround the parliament. This is to prevent Zhuang Yan and the others from doing anything out of desperation." "Yes." Chapter 989. The next day, the drums rumbled, and it was the day of the Congress meeting. However, it was different this time. Even though the Congress building was guarded by 5,000 soldiers, everyone could see the Longdan army camp's armored cavalry standing in formation, completely isolating the Congress building from the outside world. It was only when the Congress was about to begin that the Imperial Guard's cavalry finally arrived. Feng Jixing, dressed in a commander's armor, rode a tall horse, and entered the Congress building under the escort of Zhang Wei, Luo Yu, Guan Xing, and the others. Dong, 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 after the bell rang 3 times, Zhuang Yan stood up and loudly announced, the meeting shall begin." When he sat down, the entire Congress was silent, and no one actually spoke. Su Qianxia immediately frowned, coughed, and said, "Sir Zhuang Yan, didn't you prepare the agenda?" Zhuang Yan nodded. However, before he could speak, Feng Jixing stood up and said with a smile, "Before the meeting begins, I would like to announce something." Everyone was stunned. A few seconds later, Marquis Yuzhong said, "Please speak, General Feng." Feng Jixing smiled and said, "First of all, let me introduce. There are a total of 70 people participating in the Congress this time. I'm sure everyone has seen many unfamiliar faces. They are famous scholars from various provinces in the empire. Come, everyone, please rise." The people behind Feng Jixing stood up one after another, and Feng Jixing introduced them one by one. "This is Ning Shan from the Seven Seas province. Mr. Ning Shan is a learned scholar, and his reputation has spread far and wide. Next to him is Zhang Jin from the Earth Star province. Zhang Jin is a world-famous painter, and I believe everyone has heard of him. And this is Qin Su from the Lingnan province, a distant descendant of the Qin family, and he is quite famous locally." After a full 10 minutes of introduction, Feng Jixing finally finished. He abruptly opened a golden scroll in his hand and said, "Her Highness the Empress has decreed that these 70 people will join the Kingdom of Shang from today onwards as members of the Kingdom of Shang. They are the cream of the crop from their respective provinces. With them joining the Kingdom of Shang, this is the wish of the common people." The vassals were stunned. No one had expected Feng Jixing to act first and report later. Su Qianxia stood up, cupped her fists, and said respectfully, "General Feng, the Congress has a written rule that members of the Congress must be selected through the high-level parliament. This, I've passed." Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Look, this imperial edict has Lin General and Princess Xi's signatures on it. In addition to me, Wei Chou, and Su Yu's approval, 5 out of the 9 imperial deacons have agreed, more than half. But the chief hasn't agreed yet. But Her Highness the Empress has agreed." Feng Jixing's gaze turned cold, and he smiled. "Is the chief more powerful than the Empress?" As he spoke, a dense killing intent rippled out. The killing intent between his brows was awe-inspiring. Ever since he started cultivating the martial god technique, Feng Jixing's entire temperament seemed to have changed quite a bit. At this moment, Qin Kong, who was sitting on the chief's seat, coughed and said, "Let's pass this matter since Her Highness the Empress has agreed." Zhuang Yan, Su Qianxia, and the rest were so angry that they gritted their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. Feng Jixing smiled faintly and said, "Since Sir Zhuang Yan's agenda hasn't started, I still have an agenda that Her Highness the Empress left behind before she went into seclusion. It's about the amnesty for the soldiers of the Kingdom of Shang." "Oh." Zhuang Yan, Lu Xiu, and the rest were stunned. Feng Jixing took out another imperial edict and said, "The Qin Empire has gone through untold hardships and finally defeated a strong enemy. This is the fortune of the world. However, the predecessor of the Kingdom of Shang was a gathering of righteous and courageous people from all over the country. When the empire was in danger, they fought bravely at the forefront with commendable courage. Now that the world is at peace, it has been decided that the Kingdom of Shang will be granted a special Kingdom of Shang. Any soldier who is below the age of 18 and above the age of 45, has 2 elders in their families, and has only one son will be allowed to retire and return to farming. They will also be given a settlement allowance of 100 Jianghu dollars per person. From Qin Yin of the Great Qin Empire." What? Zhuang Yan couldn't sit still anymore. Everyone knew that it wasn't easy to recruit this group of soldiers. The empire had been through wars for a long time, and most of the young and strong men had already enlisted in the army a few years ago. Most of the soldiers recruited by the feudal lords were teenagers or old soldiers. This special pardon was equivalent to reducing the number of soldiers in the Kingdom of Shang by over 100,000. No, absolutely not. Zhuang Yan was a little flustered. Among the feudal lords, Zhuang Yan, Su Qianxia, and the others were only boorish men who only cared about fame and fortune. In terms of intelligence, they couldn't be compared to Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. From the beginning, they had to withdraw more than 100,000 soldiers to hand over to the Longdan army camp and the imperial guards. Now, they were withdrawing troops for the second time. The strength of the kingdom of Shang was shrinking day by day, and they could no longer sit still. However, there were still wise people among the feudal lords. Marquis Yang Zhong stood up shakily. His bloated body was almost touching the table as he said, "General Feng, this isn't appropriate." "Oh? What do you mean?" Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Yang Zhong said, "The Kingdom of Shang is a basic national policy approved by Her Highness and Lin General. The Constitution has just been established, and the Kingdom of Shang is the guardian army of the Constitution. How can it be weakened step by step? I hope that General Feng and Her Highness will cancel the decree for the sake of the people and the welfare of the common people. The Kingdom of Shang can't withstand such torment." Moreover, Yang Zhong's gaze swept across Feng Jixing and said, "Just now, I saw that the Longdan army camp has been surrounded so tightly that not even a drop of water can trickle through. I really don't understand what this means. According to the Constitution, the Kingdom of Shang is supreme and only below the Empress. Now that the Empress is in seclusion, how can the Longdan army camp trample on the law and be above the Kingdom of Shang?" Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and smiled. "Marquis Yu, if I say that the Longdan army camp is protecting the Kingdom of Shang, will you believe me?" Yang Zhong shook his head and replied, "General Feng is a god, and I, Yang Zhong, am merely a mortal. I believe that General Feng won't believe such a self-deceiving thing. The Kingdom of Shang has its own value, and the Kingdom of Shang has its own dignity. General Feng, please don't force us like this anymore. Otherwise, if we end up in a life and death struggle, I'm afraid that it will be a disaster for the Empire." "Marquis Yu, are you threatening me?" Feng Jixing squinted his eyes and smiled. "I'm not. I'm just stating the facts, according to the law." "Stating the facts, huh?" Feng Jixing laughed out loud. "Then I'll be stating the facts with you. Men, bring out the gift I'm giving to Marquis Yu." A guard stepped forward and took out a letter from his bosom. Feng Jixing took out the letter, shook it open, and held it up to Yang Zhong. He smiled and said, "Marquis Yu, have you forgotten the deal you made with Marshal Bai Minghuan of the Tianji Empire? Look, it's written clearly in black and white here." "Is that so?" Yang Zhong did not bat an eyelid and said indifferently, "Commander Feng wouldn't be thinking of using a forged letter to punish this old man, right?" "Of course, that's not all." Feng Jixing said, "This is the material evidence, and I'll find you a witness. Men, summon Yang Zhong's butler, Su Yi." Yang Zhong's body trembled, and he finally couldn't keep his cool. Su Yi was also old and feeble. He walked to Feng Jixing and saluted, then looked at Yang Zhong. Yang Zhong was shaking with anger. Didn't I ask you to burn the letter?" Su Yi cupped his hands. "Master, I just wanted to leave a way out for myself. You dog of a slave, men." Feng Jixing's voice was full of dignity. He said, "According to the law, colluding with the enemy and betraying the empire is punishable by death without trial. Drag Yang Zhong away and behead him." No one dared to stop him. Situsen flew up and grabbed Yang Zhong's fat body, lifting him up like an eagle grabbing a chick. In a flash, Situsen came back with Yang Zhong's head on the tray in his hand. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the rest turned pale and were almost speechless. Feng Jixing looked at the group of feudal vassals coldly and said, "As you have said, the Congress is a basic national policy, and it will be implemented unswervingly. However, this is the outcome of a traitor. I hope that all of you can reflect on yourselves. If you don't even have the most basic loyalty to the empire, then you don't deserve to be a parliament member in the Congress." As he said that, Feng Jixing slammed the special pardon decree on the table and said in a tone that left no room for discussion, "The special pardon decree will be implemented immediately. The Ministry of War will send people to the National Army to select soldiers suitable for the special pardon." Looking at Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and Lu Shiyu from afar, Feng Jixing smiled very brightly. "Don't worry, sirs. I believe that you are loyal to the Empire and Her Highness, right? Zhuang Yan hurriedly said, General Feng, please investigate clearly. We know nothing about Yang Zhong's betrayal. Su Changjing nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. Lu Xiyu was so scared that he couldn't speak, and his face was pale. Feng Jixing sneered. Whatever, I believe you. However, I hope that all of you can investigate yourselves. If I, Feng Jixing, do it personally, I'm afraid it won't look good. In addition, all the national soldiers are to stay put and wait for orders. No one is allowed to act on their own. While Lin General is in seclusion, I will act as the marshal. Yes, General Feng, at this moment, who dared to disobey Feng Jixing? At this moment, Feng Jixing was an omnipotent god. He could even find out that Yang Zhong had betrayed the empire. His words carried enormous weight in the Congress, and he was simply a little overlord. 5 days later, the Congress was officially reduced to 200,000 soldiers, which was far from the original 500,000 soldiers. Not long after, Lin Muyu, who was far away in the primordial secret realm, had already begun to challenge the celestial arch realm. It was freezing cold in the cave of gods and demons. No one expected that Lin Muyu would be the first among the three to challenge the celestial arch realm. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Shi Yan were all guarding him at the side, quietly waiting for him to make a breakthrough. The ice cave was unbelievably cold, but there were flames flowing around Lin Muyu's body. One could even vaguely see waves of lava crashing against the mortal latch in his dantian. Chapter 990. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When the wisps of flames condensed into a torrent, the entire cave of gods and demons was illuminated. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked on in amazement. They never knew that Lin Muyu's body was hiding such a strong power. He had only been cultivating in the cave of gods and demons for less than 4 days, but he was already different from before. Shi Yan squinted her beautiful eyes and forcefully activated her battle energy to resist the invasion of the cold. She said indifferently, "You, don't be moved by the outside world. Focus and settle, everything returns to one." At this time, Lin Muyu's forehead was already covered in sweat. Even the veins on his face and neck were bulging. Faint fiery red divine power could be seen in his meridians. It was quite frightening. The 60th heaven gate was also known as the Imperial Pass. Because breaking through this level would make one a god emperor expert, breaking through the 60th heaven gate was also known as Emperor Breakthrough. Lin Muyu closed his eyes. His Yi and Dantian felt as if they were being burned by fire. The divine power in his body continuously attacked the Imperial Pass, but it couldn't break through. Instead, when the divine power flowed back, it began to devour and burn his meridians, making him feel very uncomfortable. Finally, he couldn't help but vomit a large mouthful of blood. Emperor Breakthrough failed. Big brother you. Moo. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi stood on his left and right to protect him. They immediately held Lin Muyu's hand and used their own divine power to protect his heart and meridians, to prevent the power from hurting his body. The divine power in Lin Muyu's body wreaked havoc and he almost fainted. Fortunately, under the stimulation of the cold in the cave of gods and demons, he barely protected his heart and mind. However, every cell in his body felt like it was on fire. He frowned and asked, "What is going on?" "My power has clearly reached the point where I can break through, but I still failed," Shi Yan said calmly. "This level is called the Imperial Pass. Since ancient times, it hasn't been easy to break through. Many people have tried to break through 10,000 or even 20,000 times in tens of thousands of years, but they all failed. Your Godhead is the sovereign Godhead, so the requirement for power to break through to the Imperial Pass is even harsher, so it's common for you to fail the first time." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and felt the energy in her body dissipating like the tide. She said, "My power has weakened. My power has weakened. That's right, this is the price of failing to break through to the Imperial Pass. But it's fine, your cultivation speed in the cave of gods and demons is fast enough. At most 20 days, you'll recover to the level before you failed to break through to the Imperial Pass. I'm afraid it's far from enough. Lin Muyu looked deeply at Shi Yan and said, I miscalculated. The power I need is far from 10% stronger than the 59th heavenly layer. It needs to be at least 30% stronger to break through to the Imperial Pass. But I plan to cultivate to 40% before breaking through to the Imperial Pass. I'm 90% sure. Yes, that will take about a month. Qin Yin smiled. But it doesn't matter, we have time. Don't be too anxious, wait for me and Xiao Shi, we haven't reached the Imperial Pass yet. Tang Xiaoxi smiled sweetly. Looks like we won't get anything today. Not all of them. Shi Yan on the side smiled slightly. What's wrong? Lin Muyu was stunned. Shi Yan smiled. Don't you think I'm going to break through too? With that, Shi Yan slowly stood up. She, who had been cultivating calmly, seemed much younger. The pure power of light in her body swept out like a tsunami. The 6 wings behind her slowly spread out, and her eyes turned light gold. She smiled and said, You failed to break through to the Imperial Pass, but I've recovered to the immortal state, even though I'm just a heavenly layer 1 heavenly angel. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin couldn't help but laugh. Congratulations, Sister Haiyan. Tang Xiaoxi also said with a smile, in this way, our overall strength has been greatly enhanced. Sister Xian, according to your current cultivation advancement, when do you think you can return to the 99th heavenly layer? Shi Yan pondered for a long time. With a hint of loneliness between her brows, she said, Actually, I'm not too sure. If everything goes well, it'll be about 3 to 5 years. If not, maybe I won't be able to recover to my peak strength in 10 or 100 years. But it doesn't matter. I'm indifferent to it. Perhaps it's because you're indifferent to it that Sister Xian's strength will recover very quickly. Lin Muyu went straight to the point and said, Heart as still as water, indifferent and tranquil has always been the highest realm of cultivation. At least, that's what the secret manual that Fuxi gave me said. Did the great Emperor Fuxi of Heavens Beyond really say that? Shi Yan asked with a smile. Yes. It seems. The corners of Shi Yan's mouth curled up. She smiled meaningfully and said, It's not a bad thing for me to give up my cultivation and destroy my own divine pact. Maybe a bad thing can become a good thing and let me break through to the blazing angel realm. Ah. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin both asked in astonishment, There's a higher realm above the blazing angel realm? There is. Shi Yan smiled with a taboo expression. But I'm not too sure either. At least, I haven't seen it in my tens of thousands of years of cultivation. Maybe I'll understand everything when I stand at the peak myself. As she said that, Shi Yan shivered from the cold. She said, My divine power is almost exhausted. I can't hold on any longer. Do you want to continue cultivating here? Yu's body has just been injured. I suggest that we rest for a day and wait for Yu's injuries to heal before continuing to cultivate. Okay. The 3 of them agreed. The entrance to the cave of gods and demons was very well hidden. It was just a small gap in the shattered ice. Outside of the gap was the shallow water region. That was why Lin Muyu and the others flew out of the water. The people outside might not be able to discover the secret of the cave of gods and demons. In the distance, the ancient palace on the mountain range actually had wisps of smoke floating up. What's going on? Lin Muyu asked with a frown. Something happened to our residents. Let's go and take a look. Shi Yan said with certainty. The 4 of them flew up like meteors. When they landed on the mountain peak together, they saw that there were flames wreaking havoc outside their residence. There were also streaks of blood. Some were gold, and some were blue. The gold blood belonged to a god state expert, while the blue blood belonged to Fuzhu. Fuzhu? Lin Muyu's heart trembled. She said, Fuzhu, where are you? Master, I'm here. A weak voice came from a small forest not far away. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin sped over and saw Fuzhou lying under a crooked tree. There were injuries on his arms, legs, and even his neck. Moreover, the injuries were not light. In particular, there was a knife wound on his arm. It was so deep that the bone could be seen. How did this happen? Lin Muyu flew over and opened one hand. The healing power instantly surrounded Fuzhou. Fuzhou's injuries were so deep that even his own self-healing ability could not heal them. After encountering Lin Muyu's divine healing, his wounds seemed to be burning. He could not help but let out a miserable howl. Shi Yan walked over slowly and asked, "Fuzhou, what happened?" Cough, cough, cough. Fuzhou coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of blood. He said, "A group of gods ambushed me. Who else knows about this place?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin frowned. People from the Spirit Sparrow region? No, they are not from the Spirit Sparrow region. Fuzhou's face was pale. I recognize one of them. It's Dongfang Yan. His law of fire is very powerful. It can even penetrate the little beast's protective wall. Dongfang Yan? Yes. Dongfang Yan is the domain lord of the Raging Fire region. At the same time, he's also the overlord of the surrounding 1,000 miles. Within this 1,000 miles, there are 7 other regions, including the Spirit Sparrow region. However, their forces are far weaker than Dongfang Yan. That's why the people of the Raging Fire region can run amok in other people's territories. Fuzhou gritted his teeth. 300 years ago, I fought with Dongfang Yan once. This time, he's even stronger. I'm so angry. If the little beast's spiritual vein wasn't damaged by Master, how could the little beast be beaten so badly by just 10 people? If I didn't use the water to escape, I'm afraid I would have been killed by them. Is the Raging Fire region really that strong? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Yes. Fuzhou said, as far as I know, the Raging Fire region has a total of 18 god emperors, 300 divine kings, 1,000 hierarch experts, and 100,000 servants. The territory of the Raging Fire region is 9 times bigger than the Spirit Sparrow region. That's why all the 8 regions in the southeast are afraid of the Raging Fire region. Lin Muyu frowned. Dongfang Yan came here to kill you? No, he's looking for the cave of gods and demons. Fuzhou coughed violently. Dongfang Yan is currently an 88th Heavenly Grotto God Emperor. He probably wants to use the Cave of Gods and Demons to break through to the 90th Heavenly God Emperor realm. That's why he's in a hurry. However, this little beast knows that you're in the Cave of Gods and Demons, so it would rather die than reveal its location. Master, do you think this little beast is loyal? It's very loyal, Lin Muyu praised. It seems like the Raging Fire region has their eyes on us. We need to find a new place to stay. It's best to enter the Cave of Gods and Demons together next time. Otherwise, it'll be very dangerous for those who stay outside. Qin Yin nodded. I agree. Shi Yan said, Fuzhou, is there any other place we can stay? Fuzhou was stunned. No, bullsh *t. Shi Yan, the blazing angel, cursed. She puffed up her full and round chest and looked down at Fuzhou. There's a saying that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. You're the ruler of the water region, how can you not have 3 burrows? I don't believe it. Bring us there immediately. Otherwise, I'll kill you before Dongfang Yan does. Don't forget your oath to you. If you're not loyal to Master, you'll face the heavenly tribulation. Do you think you can escape the heavenly tribulation with your state of mind? Fuzhou wailed in pain. This little beast can't escape. I'll bring you there. Chapter 991. Dragon-Seeking Mountain was a lush, ancient forest located 25 miles south of the Cave of Gods and Demons. Swoosh, 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 a few silhouettes landed in the forest. It was Lin Muyu, Fuzhou, and the others. Qin Yin looked around and said, We saw a few spirit beasts when we were flying over just now. The strongest one among them has a lifespan of 30,000 years. Actually, we can get rid of it while we're at it. Fuzhou hurriedly said, Miss Qin Yin, all things have spirituality. Spirit beasts are born from the spirits of heaven and earth. Since you are all gods, you should know compassion. Let them go, you make it sound like you're one of them. Tang Xiaoxi had a warning smile on her face. By now, everyone had basically understood that Fuzhou was a sly and cunning beast. Even in front of his master, he might not tell the whole truth, so they could not trust him completely. This little critter is a spirit beast, but of a higher level. Fuzhou explained anxiously. Lin Muyu smiled. All right, stop explaining. As long as those beasts don't provoke us, we won't kill them. But Fuzhou, are you planning to let us rest here? Yes, this place is beautiful. What's wrong with that? Isn't that still sleeping in the open? Lin Muyu raised her voice and glared at him. Aren't you going to bring us to your lair? Let us see what the legendary ruler of the water's residence looks like. Fuzhou was stunned. Lin Muyu unsheathed her sword. If you continue to stammer, we'll kill you and turn you into dried meat. You're not willing to let us see your lair, so I'm sure you want to come back and be the king of the mountain, continuing to harm the innocent? This little critter wouldn't dare, Fuzhou shuddered. But master, if we really want to kill this little critter one day, can you not make dried meat? It's so uncomfortable. How about steaming it? Sure. Stir-frying, pasting, boiling, deep-frying, marinating, smoking, grilling, deep-frying, mixing, or drawing. Choose for yourself when you're tired of living. I respect you. Lin Muyu smiled and said, China has 8 major cuisines and dozens of cooking methods. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. Qin Yin looked at Fuzhou hesitantly and said, Big brother you, how is it going to pull the silk? Lin Muyu, in the end, Fuzhou had no choice but to submit to the might of the crowd. He led the 4 into the depths of the forest and flew at a low altitude for nearly 10 minutes on a vague mountain path. Finally, they arrived in front of a huge mountain rampart. There was no way forward. Why is it a dead end? Qin Yin was surprised. Fuzhou smiled. Miss Qin Yin, do you know why this place is called Mount Seeking Dragon? Why? The ancient gods in the primordial secret realm also paid particular attention to the dragon vein. They all believed that as long as they could find the dragon vein, cultivating there would yield twice the results with half the effort. The Mount Seeking Dragon happened to be a dragon vein. Countless ancient gods have been buried here for millions of years, and the treasures carried by many god-emperor-level ancient gods were all lost in the Mount Seeking Dragon. After a rare earthquake, the location of the Mount Seeking Dragon changed. It was no longer a dragon vein, but the treasures were still here. The Mount Seeking Dragon that the gods couldn't find became one of the little critter's nests. As he spoke, Fuzhou walked forward and said in a clear voice, Dragon Seeking Dragon Master, open the door. A low buzzing sound rang out, and soon, the stone walls began to separate. An irregular pattern appeared on the door, but the 2 giant stone doors remained in their original state as they slowly separated, revealing the secret room inside. All right, you can go in now, Fuzhou said. No, you go first. Shi Yan's wariness towards Fuzhou was unusually strong. Fuzhou could only shrug and smile helplessly. He was considered handsome and elegant, and there were not many women in the 64 domains who could resist his elegance and charm. Many of the domain lord's daughters would rather elope with him, but unfortunately, he met Shi Yan, Qin Yin, and the others. Shi Yan was a perfect blazing angel, so she didn't even spare him a glance. On the other hand, Qin Yin's eyes of blazing dawn could see through everything. As for Tang Xiaoxi, she was dead set on Lin Muyu, so she didn't stand a chance. In front of this group of people, he was nothing but a ferocious beast with no sense of existence to speak of. In the end, Fuzhou walked at the front, while Lin Muyu and the 3 beauties followed closely behind. After everyone entered the secret chamber, the stone door at the back slowly closed. There was no trace of it at all, and it was very well hidden. However, the secret chamber was lit up with lights. Upon closer inspection, they were crystals that used the principle of refraction to send light from the outside into the secret chamber. Thus, the secret chamber was as bright as day. Wow, not bad. Lin Muyu was full of praise as she walked in the secret room. The secret room was located inside the mountain, but it had everything: a hall, a corridor, a staircase, a room, a kitchen, and so on. This is where you live? Lin Muyu asked. Yes, master. Fuzhu replied respectfully. When a spiritual beast's cultivation increases, it can transform into a human form, so this little beast is used to living like a human. It doesn't want to show its true form unless it's in a battle. This little beast has lived here for more than 8,000 years. At the same time, this little beast has also swept all the treasures in the dragon-seeking forest. They're all in the treasury. Master, do you want to take a look? No way. Lin Muyu glanced at him. Would you show your treasury to us so easily? Fuzhu smiled helplessly. Of course not, but since we've already signed the master-servant contract, you're this little beast's master. Moreover, we're already here, so we can't hide. Why don't we just tell you and save ourselves another beating? You're becoming more and more sensible. Lead the way, let us see the ancient divine beast, Fuzhu's treasury. Yes. Fuzhu stepped into the corridor and slowly pushed open the first small door on the wall. Inside was a bright light. Chests of treasures and gold were piled up in the room. This is the treasury of gold and silver. Although gold and silver are nothing to the gods, it is still the most basic currency in the 64 domains. The little critter still needs it when it transforms into a human. Lin Muyu gulped and said, "There's so much gold, can I take it away? As long as master is happy." Fuzhu felt a pain in his heart. He pushed open the door of the second stone room. Immediately, a vast aura rushed out. He said in a low voice, "This is the divine weapon treasury. There are many weapons, artifacts, defensive tools, and so on used by god emperors. Master, you can choose whatever you like. If you like it, take it away. This little beast won't complain." "Oh, let's go in and take a look." Lin Muyu was still very interested in divine weapons. He led the three beauties into the divine weapon treasury. Rows upon rows of weapon racks were filled with sharp weapons. There were long swords, pikes, battle blades, meteor hammers, and so on. As for defensive tools, there were shields, armors, helmets, and so on. There was a feast for the eyes. Divine weapons that could attract the attention of a divine beast with a hobby of collecting like Fuzhu were at least first-rank saint grade. There were even quite a number of substandard divine weapons. The stellar sword in Qin Yin's hand could only be considered to be below average when placed in this pile of weapons. In the boundless universe, Lin Muyu was still far from being able to refine weapons in terms of level. Almost every master craftsman that specialized in refining weapons was above him. Not bad. Lin Muyu's palm gently caressed a sharp sword. She felt a tyrannical divine power flowing into her palm. The power of this sword was slightly stronger than the stellar sword. She couldn't help but ask in astonishment, "What's the origin of this sword?" Fuzhu said, "This sword was once used by a god emperor in the eastern heavenly realm. It was said that it was brought over from another plane. After that, it was refined and forged by a master craftsman in the divine realm. It's incomparably sharp. Its name is..." "Oh, it's called Gongbu sword." "Famous sword Gongbu?" "Yes. It is said that there are two other swords called Longyuan and Taya. However, they were left behind. This little beast couldn't find them either." Lin Muyu frowned. Needless to say, these three swords must have heard of space-time disorder and samsara cycle. That's why they were left behind in the divine realm and entered the secret realm. Otherwise, the timing would be wrong. His attention quickly fell on a war hammer. This war hammer was faintly glowing with lightning. There were even some ancient characters engraved on it. When Lin Muyu held the war hammer in his hand, he immediately felt a thick power flowing into his body. It was very exhausting to lift the war hammer. He used almost 70% of his divine power to barely lift the war hammer. Lightning crackled on the tip of the war hammer. "Master, this hammer is..." Fuzhu began to explain. "Don't speak." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "If I'm not wrong, this hammer is the legendary Thunder God's hammer, right?" How did Master know?" "You don't need to know." Lin Muyu slowly put down the war hammer. "Did the Thunder God also come to the prehistoric secret realm?" "No, it is said that the Thunder God was the God Emperor of the Northern Heaven realm. However, he disappeared during the Battle of the Gods, so his hammer was taken to the East Heaven and finally left here." Fuzhu rubbed his nose and smiled. "Master, you don't have to care about this hammer. In terms of sturdiness and weight, it is indeed very strong, but in terms of combat power and divine artifact level, the Xianyuan sword in Master's hand is far above the Thunder God's warhammer. Even the dig spear in Miss Xiaoxi's hand is much stronger than this hammer." "Yes." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "A hammer that can be blocked by Captain May's broken shield is indeed not something to look at. If it was the Xianyuan sword, Captain May would definitely be GG." Fuzhu was stunned. "Master, what does Captain May and GG mean?" Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. "All right, Fuzhu, don't listen to him. Big brother Yu likes to talk to himself sometimes." Fuzhu smiled. "Then Master, if you have any weapons you like in this little critter's divine weapon storage, feel free to take them. You are this little critter's master, this little critter will not be stingy." Lin Muyu took the Qingkuan pouch from her waist and looked back at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. "Hey, what are you two waiting for? Take it all away." "Ah." Fuzhu clutched his chest, blood spurting out of his mouth. Chapter 992. 7 days later, in the Cave of Gods and Demons. Strands of radiant god force floated around Qin Yin like ribbons. 7 days after Lin Muyu's failure, Qin Yin's attempt to break through to the monarch realm also failed. Her strength regressed a little and she needed more time to cultivate. Fortunately, they had plenty of time in the primordial mystic realm. A month here was equivalent to 3 days in the Shattered Cauldron realm. 22 days later, in the Cave of Gods and Demons, Qin Yin attempted to break through to the monarch realm again. The ice cave was incomparably cold. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi stood on either side of Qin Yin, who was on the verge of breaking through. Shi Yan's cultivation had also increased by quite a bit, so she could stay in the Cave of Gods and Demons for a longer period of time. Qin Yin sat upright on the ice bed. Beams of divine power transformed into flowing lights that penetrated her body and burned her clothes to ashes, revealing her alluring body underneath. "Fuzhu, you can leave first," said Lin Muyu. "Yes, Master." Fuzhu flew out. Even though he was a fierce beast, he was still in the form of a male, so it wasn't a good idea for him to stay here. As for Lin Muyu, there was no need to say much about his relationship with Qin Yin, so it was only right for him to stay here. After all, it was quite dangerous to break through to the monarch realm. Beads of sweat flowed down Qin Yin's cheeks. She had practically used all her strength to break through to the profound martial realm, and a pair of golden wings unfolded behind her back. Shi Yan, Lin Muyu, and Tang Xiaoxi remained silent. Qin Yin could only rely on herself to break through to the profound martial realm, and no one else could help her. Qin Yin slowly spread out her hands. Her palms were filled with dense light and blazing flames. One was blazing, while the other was dark. These were the two branches of the law of light. One was pure light, while the other was dark. As Qin Yin's over-god of light, she was the supreme ruler of the entire law of light. Naturally, she had to see through both branches at the same time. When she clasped her hands together, crackling sounds of electricity could be heard. When she clasped her hands in front of her chest, the light grew even brighter. Qin Yin's body trembled slightly, and her long hair fluttered in the wind. Even her over-god overlord emerged, emitting buzzing noises. Success or failure depended on this. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi were so nervous that they couldn't speak. They could only stare at Qin Yin's breakthrough. Buzz buzz buzz, Qin Yin's body trembled even more as she heard the shrill screech. Golden feathers of light flew out from her back amidst the buzzing and agitation. These feathers gathered together in the blink of an eye. In less than 10 seconds, they seemed to have condensed into something. Following Qin Yin's sigh, a new pair of golden wings broke out from her back with a dull bang. For golden wings. At this moment, not only did Qin Yin break through to the celestial arch stage, but she had also successfully become a four-winged angel. Qin Yin let out a long gasp, and then she fainted. Xiao Yin, are you alright? Lin Muyu quickly caught her. Shi Yan was all smiles. Xiao Yin has broken through, and she has exhausted all her energy. Hurry up and put some clothes on her. Let's go back to the ground. She can't withstand the low temperature here for now. Okay. Lin Muyu quickly took out a new set of clothes from her universe bag and hurriedly helped Qin Yin change with Tang Xiaoxi. Then, she carried Qin Yin and flew out of the cave of gods and demons. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, outside, the wind was biting cold. Fuzhu was hiding at the entrance of the ice cave. He craned his neck and asked, Master, has Miss Qin Yin broken through? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. Xiao Yin has exhausted all her energy and needs to rest. Let's go back. Yes. After flying for dozens of kilometers, they arrived at Mount Dragon Search. However, the dragon-seeking mountain seemed to be very unusual today. Lin Muyu frowned even before she landed on the ground. Don't you guys feel the aura surging underground? Shi Yan shook her head. My cultivation has dropped too much. I can't feel it. Are you sure, you? Yes. Fuzhu also nodded. There is indeed something underground, and there is more than one. Is it someone from the Raging Fire region? Tang Xiaoxi asked. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin in her arms and shook her head. No, this aura is very violent. It should be a wild beast. Fuzhu, what kind of wild beast would be active underground in the 64 domains? That's a lot. Fuzhu pondered. From the primordial divine beast Hun Dun to the spiritual beast earth drilling rat, there are many. But this aura clearly doesn't belong to Hun Dun. There is only one Hun Dun in the 64 domains, and it died a long time ago. Then what is it? This little beast really doesn't know. Lin Muyu landed slowly with Qin Yin in her arms. She immediately raised her eyebrows. They are coming for us. There are two of them. What should we do? Since they are coming for us, let's just get rid of them. Shi Yan smiled faintly. In any case, don't lure them into the secret chamber. Xin needs time to recuperate. She can't be disturbed. Okay. Everyone got into formation. Tang Xiaoxi held the Tig spear, while Lin Muyu handed Qin Yin to Xin. She also drew her Xian Yuan sword. Deep underground, a tyrannical and violent aura was approaching at a rapid speed. Buzz buzz buzz, the mountain forest began to tremble. Tigers and leopards fled in groups. Mountain birds flew into the sky. It was clear that the newcomer's food chain was definitely above these wild beasts. Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique was like a radar that repeatedly scanned the location of the newcomer. Just as the other party was about to arrive, he suddenly rose from the ground and stabbed the Xian Yuan sword into the ground. He shouted, "Every phenomenon in the world, listen to my command." Bang! The elephant will followed the sudden stab of the sword into the depths of the ground. Suddenly, a blood-curdling screech could be heard. Immediately after, the rocky ground dozens of meters away suddenly exploded. The boulder turned into powder, and a ferocious head drilled out from the ground. It was followed by a long and wriggling body. It looked like a huge snake. Earth snake. It's an earth snake. Fuzhu said in a low voice. Lin Muyu nodded. This kind of creature was not very rare. It could be found in the Shattered Cauldron realm as well. This species should be very similar to the earth-drilling dragon snake, but stronger. There were 27 golden lines on the head of this earth snake, which meant that it was a 27,000-year-old spiritual beast. It could be considered a sacred beast. At least in the dragon-seeking forest of the Qin Empire, it would be at the top of the food chain. Let's finish this quickly. Lin Muyu's figure turned into a bolt of lightning and dashed forward. The long sword in his hand brought out the light of the chaos of the common life. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly disappeared. Her spear, carrying the flames of the great karma fire technique, fell from the sky and devoured the body of the earth snake. Roar! The earth snake's screams were very shrill. How could it withstand the pincer attack of two powerful cultivators? In just a moment, the flesh on its back had been torn open, and its head had been slashed 7 or 8 times by the Shenyuan sword. Even its skull had been smashed, revealing the white brain matter. It had originally intended to hunt, but in the blink of an eye, it had become the prey. Twisting its huge body and shaking its head, the earth snake was already trying to escape by the way it came. But it was too late. Lin Muyu's 5 elements 8 wastelands annihilation instantly tore its huge head apart and killed it instantly. No, master. Fuzhou shouted, but it seemed that it was too late. What's wrong? Lin Muyu asked. Fuzhou frowned and said, this earth snake doesn't look like a wild one. It seems to have been domesticated and used as a hunter to find powerful enemies. Someone is looking for me. It must be someone from the Raging Fire region. We killed the earth snake, so they will be here soon. So be it. Lin Muyu said, there's one more. Hurry up and finish it. Behind them, there was a bang. Another earth snake burrowed out of the ground. Fuzhou made up his mind and rushed over. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into his beast form and stabbed his 4 horns into the second earth snake's body. Lightning and fire raged. The earth snake wailed and waved its head, but it died in the blink of an eye. The battle between beasts was really simple and violent. After Lin Muyu quickly dug out the spirit stones, the group quickly left. The secret chamber was about 10 miles away. As long as they controlled their aura well, they would not be discovered. After all, the secret chamber was so well hidden that even a god would have a hard time finding it. In the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Qin Yin sat facing each other in the secret room. The light from the crystal lamp at the side gradually dimmed. Qin Yin's power had recovered quite a bit. As an expert of the God Arch realm, her perception seemed to have improved a lot. Her pair of flaming eyes opened slightly, and she said with a smile, Brother Yu, little Shi, someone is coming. Yes, it's someone from the Raging Fire region. Lin Muyu said confidently. Above them, 3 powerful auras flew past. They really did not find the secret chamber and went straight to the place where the earth snake died. So powerful. Qin Yin frowned. How powerful? Xiao Yin, are you sure you can defeat them? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin shook her head. I might be able to fight the 2 weaker ones to a draw, but I'm definitely not a match for the strongest one. That person should be Dongfang Yan. Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, I didn't expect that we would offend such a strong opponent so soon after coming to the prehistoric mystery land. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. The prehistoric mystery land is a place where the strong prey on the weak. We will offend such people sooner or later. There's no need to regret anything. But... Mu, are you sure you can reach the Emperor Realm tomorrow? Yes, it's been a month since I failed to reach the Emperor Realm. Lin Muyu nodded and thought for a while. She looked at the 2 beauties teasingly and smiled. I believe I won't fail this time. I have at least an 80% chance of winning. That's good. Qin Yin was pleased. As long as Brother Yu succeeds, maybe we will have enough chips to challenge Dongfang Yan and the Raging Fire region. It's still difficult. Don't underestimate the Raging Fire region. They have 18 celestial monarchs. If 2 of them attack one of us, we will lose. If more than 6 celestial monarchs come, I'm afraid we will all be wiped out. Lin Muyu's eyes were full of caution. So we should avoid the raging fire region as much as possible and cultivate to the 90th perfection celestial monarch realm as soon as possible. By then, it won't be too late to sweep the 64 regions. Brother, you wants to sweep the 64 regions? This forgotten divine realm has been lost for too long. We will definitely find a way to break the barrier between the prehistoric mystery land and the divine realm. It will be a good thing for the East Heaven realm. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. Don't you have any selfish motives? As the saying goes, there are. Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly. I want to take in a portion of the godly experts in the prehistoric mystery land and bring them back to the divine realm. Then, I will go to the Shattered Cauldron world and help Brother Feng and Wei Chou end the war between the Shattered Cauldron world and the Celestial Pole continent. The Celestial Pole continent has always had an absolute advantage in terms of the number of godly experts. It's time to reverse this awkward situation. Yes. Qin Yin nodded. Her beautiful eyes were full of hope. Chapter 993. The night passed uneventfully. Although Qin Yin had succeeded in breaking through to the Emperor realm, her body had suffered some injuries. Lin Muyu practically spent the entire night hugging her to sleep, using her healing abilities to help her recover. Of course, she couldn't do much. Shi Yan, Tang Xiaoxi, and Fuzhu could only watch helplessly. There was truly no chance. At daybreak, they left the secret chamber and flew toward the cave of gods and demons. For Lin Muyu, today was a big day. She had to succeed in her second attempt at the Emperor realm. The cave of gods and demons was as cold as ever. This time, it was the others' turn to protect Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu slowly sat cross-legged on the ice bed. She had been preparing for close to 2 hours. She cleansed the energy in her body and circulated the formless elephant tactic a few times. Then, she ate a peaceful heart berry and began to circulate her divine energy to break through to the monarch realm again. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the 12 spirit beads of law burst out of her body, creating an incomparably magnificent sight. Raging flames, whirlwinds, ice, lightning, light, and all sorts of law energies formed a small storm around Lin Muyu. The light was faintly discernible, making it seem incomparably magnificent and extraordinary. Even the blazing angel Shi Yan couldn't help but gape in amazement. The Supreme Godhead was a supreme treasure that all gods yearned for, and the Shinchong Emperor who possessed a Supreme Godhead was actually so eye-catching. Moreover, this time, Lin Muyu's strength was much stronger than the last time she broke through to the Emperor realm. After a month of bitter cultivation in the cave of gods and demons, her divine energy had increased by at least 30%. This made Shi Yan look at Lin Muyu in a new light. This sort of endurance and tenacity was truly rare and precious. If it were any ordinary person, they would have broken through to the Emperor realm countless times in the past month. Who could endure this? The power of the 12 laws spun faster and faster, to the point where everyone could already see the constellation of the formless elephant art. Faintly, they could hear the roars of mountains and seas, the roars of wild beasts, the wrath of gods, and the sounds of mortal worlds collapsing. No one would have thought that Lin Muyu's laws would be able to see through the myriad of phenomena of all living beings. Very quickly, the power of the 12 laws turned into supreme god force and began to break through the profound martial realm. In the beginning, Lin Muyu was still very calm, but very quickly, beads of sweat started to form on her forehead, and a pained expression appeared on her face. The Supreme Godhead's God Emperor profound gate seemed to be harder to control, and one could imagine the pressure and pain that Lin Muyu had to endure. At that moment, wisps of aura suddenly appeared outside the cave of gods and demons. Qin Yin frowned and asked, "What's going on?" Fuzhu gritted his teeth. "I'm afraid someone has discovered us. What should we do?" Qin Yin was anxious. Yu's breakthrough to the Emperor realm cannot be affected. "Shao Shi, let's go out and take a look." Looking at Lin Muyu's expression, Qin Yin was even more worried. Her breakthrough to the Emperor realm was not going as smoothly as she had imagined. At this moment, Lin Muyu's brows were tightly knitted together, and a blood-colored cyclone appeared on the surface of her body. "What's going on?" Qin Yin asked. Shi Yan was a little flustered. "I also don't know. There seems to be some energy in Yu's body that conflicts with the Supreme Godhead's energy, so, even if his energy reaches the required level, he still can't break through to the Emperor realm." Lin Muyu, who was gradually sinking into chaos, opened her eyes. Her body was surrounded by swirling air currents, and she said, It's the blood firmament refining. The blood firmament refining's energy is too bloody, and it conflicts with the righteous energy of the formless elephant art. So, every time I reach this step, I can't control it, and my energy starts to attack. Sister Xian, don't speak. Xian seemed to understand something, and she said, "Focus and calm your mind. Success or failure depends on a single thought. The blood firmament refining is your martial art, and you only need to remember that you have never used it to kill a good person. That's enough. Deep in your heart, you cultivate a benevolent heavenly Tao, so don't fall into self-blame. That will only make things worse." Lin Muyu didn't continue speaking, and she just gritted her teeth and held on. Shi Yan's gaze swept across them, and she said, "Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, someone is barging in. Be careful, don't let them destroy the cave of gods and demons. This time, Yu's cultivation is even more dangerous than the last time. If he's forcefully interrupted, he might fall into the demonic path, or even lose his cultivation." Wait. Lin Muyu's face was filled with pain, and she said, "Xiao Yin, use my Xianyuan sword." Okay, when Qin Yin mentioned the Xianyuan sword next to Lin Muyu, her heart was filled with apprehension. This time, she was really nervous. No one knew how many heavenly tribulations there were on the path of cultivation, but it was clear that they couldn't avoid this tribulation in front of them. If they couldn't resolve it, Lin Muyu's path of cultivation would end here. The auras on the corridor of the cave of gods and demons were getting closer and closer. Just as Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi flew to the entrance, they felt a few forces coming toward them. It was a middle-aged man wearing a red robe, and there was a flame emblem embroidered on his robe. He was from the Raging Fire region, and there were 4 people flying in behind him. They were all God state experts, 1 God Emperor, and the other 4 God Kings. Ha ha ha, it's really here. The God Emperor raised his eyebrows, and his eyes stared straight at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. He smiled and said, "I didn't expect there to be such devastatingly beautiful women in the 64 domains. We didn't come for nothing, ha ha ha. Wang Ping, go back and tell the region lord where this place is. I'll take care of these little beauties." But at this moment, Qin Yin smiled, and her beautiful face bloomed with a smile that was different from her temperament. "You want to leave? I'm afraid it won't be that easy." Swoosh, 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 4 golden wings spread out behind her, and Qin Yin instantly raised her power to the extreme. A wall of light spread out behind the 5 people, sealing their way out. What the hell is this? The God King called Wang Ping suddenly punched the wall of light, but the power of the wall came from Qin Yin, so it didn't move. In the entire world, there was probably no God King who could shake the wall of light created by Qin Yin, the Master God of Light. Yo, the red-robed God Emperor's gaze swept over Qin Yin, and he smiled. A beauty who just stepped into the God Emperor realm. Interesting. Wang Ping, there's no need to leave. We'll take care of them here today, and then report back to the Raging Fire region. Yes. Who are you? Tang Xiaoxi asked. There's also a hot beauty. The red-robed God Emperor smiled and said, "There's no harm in telling you. I'm Deacon Xiao Yao under the region lord of the Raging Fire region, Dongfang Yan. These 4 are Wang Ping, Li Tai, Murong Jia, and Nangong Ling. Can you tell me who you are now? Who is the source of the energy waves in the depths of the cave of gods and demons? Mind your own business." Qin Yin swung her sword and rushed forward, and the Xianyuan sword slashed at Xiao Yao with a split light. You're courting death. Qiu Yao roared angrily, and the flames in his hands surged as he clashed with Qin Yin's Xianyuan sword. Meanwhile, Tang Xiaoxi quickly transformed into her nine-tailed form, and fought with the four god kings. Flames and light intertwined, and the corridor at the entrance of the Cave of Gods and Demons became a battlefield in the blink of an eye. Inside the Cave of Gods and Demons, the blood-colored vortex around Lin Muyu's body became denser and denser. His expression was one of extreme pain. He forcefully used the invisible elephant art to protect his heart, but it became more and more difficult. The violent aura caused by the heavenly blood refining art kept attacking his meridians, and in the blink of an eye, a meridian on his arm exploded with a pop. Ah! Shi Yan instantly panicked. How could this be? How could this be? How can I help you? Lin Muyu clenched his teeth, and said in a muffled voice, Sister Xian, the depths of my soul thirsts for blood. I thirst for slaughter. What should I do? What should I do? Thirst for blood? Shi Yan stood up, and the blazing moon sword quickly appeared in her hand. She slashed at her wrist, and immediately, strands of blood turned into blood chains that lingered around Lin Muyu. However, this made Lin Muyu feel even more pain. Shi Yan's blood was like scorching lava, and it was unbearable. No, Lin Muyu's thoughts were a little chaotic. He swept out with his palm, and as he dispersed the blood chains, he also slammed Shi Yan into the ice pillar behind him, and blood spurted out of his mouth. What should I do? Shi Yan supported the blazing moon sword and stood up again. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and looked at Lin Muyu worriedly. At the side, Fuzhu was very calm. He said, Lord Blazing Angel, I've heard of Master's past. Master has been fighting in his plane for many years, and for the unification of the Empire, he has killed countless people. He lives such a life every day, but he still maintains the last bit of kindness. Master's path is to eradicate the strong and help the weak, and to put on armor and slaughter. This path is paved with the blood of enemies and evildoers. Lord Blazing Angel, your blood is not the blood of evildoers, so naturally, you can't help Master break through. You mean, Shi Yan was stunned. You need the blood of evildoers? Yes, Lord Blazing Angel has been in the Western Divine Realm for so many years. Don't you know about blood sacrifice? Yes, blood sacrifice, it's blood sacrifice. Shi Yan gritted her teeth and said, You must hold on, the evildoers are coming. Then, Shi Yan said in a low voice, Xin, you and Xiao Shi, come in quickly. If they want to come, let them come. In the outside world, Qin Yin was stunned. Then, Shi and Tang Xiaoxi retreated at the same time, and in the blink of an eye, they entered the ice cave. How could Xiao Yao and the others let the cooked duck fly away? They all chased after them, but they didn't know that they had inadvertently become someone else's sacrifice. Just as Qiu Yao and the others flew into the ice cave, Shi Yan had already pushed all of her power into the realm of a six-winged angel, and with the blazing moon sword in her hand, she struck out 2 consecutive attacks at lightning speed. Destruction. Mercy. If Shi Yan was at her peak, she could kill a 72 heavenly abode celestial emperor like Qiu Yao with a little finger. But now, she only had less than 1,000th of her peak cultivation. Even so, she still used her powerful mental cultivation to activate mercy. In an instant, Qiu Yao and the others couldn't move. Shi Yan still had this ability. Xin, Xiao Shi, kill. Mercy. The defense of absolute domain made Qiu Yao and the others unable to move for a short period of time. Wang. The Xianyuan sword was raised, and the 5th strike of Shi Yan's 7 slashes, expiation. The sword light flashed, and the 4 celestial kings were chopped into 2 at the waist. On the other hand, Tang Xiaoxi's dig spear forcefully pierced into Qiu Yao's heart with the great karmic fire sutra's god force. The Hong god force exploded, and Qiu Yao was directly injured. Originally, even if Qiu Yao and the others were pinned down by Shi Yan, they wouldn't be killed instantly. But their bad luck was that the weapons used by Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were all divine weapons, and they were able to pierce through the divine wall directly. Swoosh, swoosh, under the control of Shi Yan's power, streams of fresh blood flowed around Lin Muyu. Immediately, Lin Muyu's body trembled, and her supreme godhead shone brightly. The descent of the blood of the wicked was like rain after a long drought, nourishing her dried-up body. Chapter 994. Hiss, hiss, streams of blood evaporated in the air around Lin Muyu. Qiu Yao, who was on the verge of death, was dumbfounded by what he saw. What is this? Are you a devil? Lin Muyu didn't answer. He was suffering from the pain of breaking through to the monarch realm, so how could he answer Qiu Yao's question? However, Lin Muyu's heart was filled with coldness. He had never thought that he would have such a bloodthirsty nature in the depths of his body. He had never experienced this kind of bloodlust before. Could it be that after experiencing so many battles over the years, the bloodlust that he had been suppressing finally broke out at this moment? When he thought of this, the flames around him started to become violent and chaotic. Shi Yan hastily shouted, "You, calm your mind, don't let your imagination run wild, be the real you, don't let any evil influence you." Lin Muyu rose to his feet and knelt on the ice bed. The flames around him coiled around him like swimming dragons. He let out a miserable groan and looked at Shi Yan, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others with his pale golden eyes. Be the real you, kill those who deserve to be killed. Qiu Yao murmured in his heart, desperately urging all the energy in his body to suppress the bloodlust in his heart. Finally, the blood-red flames around him were extinguished, and his mind became clear. In the next moment, an endless stream of energy returned to his Qi Si from his godhead. This was a power that he had never felt before. Moreover, Lin Muyu could clearly feel that there was an additional power in her body that could control spacetime. That's right, it was the Samsara power. It was a unique ability of celestial thearchs, just that there were differences in strength. Plop, Qiu Yao knelt heavily on the ground. The blood on his chest had almost dried up. Even from the outside, one could see the beating of his heart. Tang Xiaoxi's attack was very accurate, and this God Emperor realm expert's life was about to come to an end. You, who are you people? Qiu Yao raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu and the others with a blank expression. A group of people who are being hunted by you. Shi Yan sneered. Lin Muyu asked, do you people from the Raging Fire territory really want to kill us? You're with Fu Zhu. Qiu Yao coughed intensely, blood spurting out of his mouth. His entire body trembled as he said, please protect my heart meridians. As long as I can return to the Raging Fire region alive, I will explain everything to the leader of the Raging Fire region. We will bury the hatchet, what do you think? Lin Muyu laughed. Do you think we're 3-year-olds? Qin Yin opened her flaming eyes and said, just now outside the cave of gods and demons, your attacks were ruthless and deadly. Is there any use in begging for mercy now? If Xiao Shi and I had begged for mercy just now, would you have spared us? A trace of cruelty flashed across Qiu Yao's face. He knew that he wouldn't be able to live. He grinned and said, of course, you and that girl are both peerless beauties. As long as you beg for mercy, I will definitely spare your lives. However, the price is that you will become my exclusive slaves, and I will play with you. You're courting death. The Xianyuan sword in Qin Yin's hand flashed, and Qiu Yao's head flew into the sky. Lin Muyu was speechless. You killed him before we even finished asking questions. Xiao Yin, you're too hot-tempered, Qin Yin pouted. He humiliated me and Xiao Shi. Aren't you angry? I am angry. I will kill him sooner or later. But it doesn't matter. The Raging Fire region has already shed all pretenses of cordiality with us. There will be a big battle in the future. As she spoke, Lin Muyu's face brimmed with confidence. She was no longer the Lin Muyu from yesterday. She was an expert who had officially stepped into the God Emperor realm. Her understanding of power had reached a whole new level. Beside her, Shi Yan carefully gathered the 5 godheads. She frowned and said, "Unfortunately, there's only one caste immortal godhead. The rest are all mortal godheads." "That's not bad. You can increase your divine power quite a bit after refining them," Lin Muyu said. Qin Yin's frown relaxed. She returned the Xianyuan sword to Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Congratulations, big brother Yu. You've stepped into the God Emperor realm. How is it? It feels good, right?" "It feels good," Lin Muyu said happily. "Xiao Yin, how's your mastery of the reincarnation wheel?" "It's just a little bit of power. It's very weak. I think it can only reverse time for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. It's nothing compared to those consummate god emperors who can travel hundreds of years." "That's not bad." Lin Muyu brushed off the frost on her body and said, "What do we do now?" Qin Yin looked at the ground. "Get rid of these corpses. Then, we'll leave the cave of gods and demons. We'll hide in a secret room and cultivate for a few days. Let's lay low for now. Otherwise, we'll be targeted by the raging fire region again." Okay, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu and the others also cultivated in the secret room for 3 days. They refined 3 godheads to help Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan improve their cultivation. Tang Xiaoxi was now at the 57th Grotto Heaven realm. It wouldn't be long before she tried to break through to the God Emperor realm. At dusk, the setting sun reflected the outline of the Dragon Mountain on the ground. It was especially quiet. In the forest, tigers and leopards also returned to their nests with their prey in their mouths. On the treetop, a figure lightly floated down. It was Lin Muyu. He landed on a withered tree that looked like an old man in the Dragon Mountain. This short tree seemed to be dead, but Lin Muyu could feel the vitality in the tree. He waved his hand and used his divine power to split the bark. Sure enough, a row of black, round, apple-sized fruits appeared in front of him. Inkjade fruit, one of the spiritual fruits in the 64 domains. The outer shell of the inkjade fruit was hard, but the fruit inside was as clear as jade. After eating it, it could quickly increase the strength of divine power. If cultivated properly, it could yield twice the result with half the effort. There was a total of 7 inkjade fruits. Lin Muyu happily picked all of them and placed them into her cosmos sack. Then, she carefully covered them with the tree bark. In a few more years, they should bloom and bear fruit again. Roar, not far away, a low roar came. The prey that Lin Muyu had been chasing for half an hour finally appeared. It was a grizzly bear that was more than 10,000 years old. It was also Lin Muyu's dinner. The grizzly bear stared at the enemy with its gloomy eyes. It knew that it couldn't avoid it, so it waved its sharp claws and pounced over. Flames began to cover its whole body. Its speed was getting faster and faster, like an arrow leaving the bow. If it was an expert below the godly state, he or she would have died from this attack. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu was already a true god emperor. Moreover, she was a god emperor with a supreme being's godhead. She suddenly opened her right hand and condensed it into a palm. Waves of invisible domain power accumulated in the palm. When the grizzly bear launched a fatal blow, Lin Muyu met it with a palm. Bang! The grizzly bear's lightning-fast speed was forcefully interrupted, and its body fell onto the grass like a huge rock. It spat out a mouthful of blood and died. It was obvious that its heart meridian had been shattered. After stepping into the God Arch realm, Lin Muyu's control over spatial laws had greatly increased. The strength of this palm strike was comparable to Han Shu's back then. Carrying the grizzly bear's body, Lin Muyu jumped up and flew in the direction of the secret room. When he came to the front of the secret room, he looked from afar. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had already started a fire in the call beside the secret room. Although they were gods, they couldn't always eat raw food. It was still necessary to start a fire. According to Xiao, there were many god-state experts in East Heaven who didn't pay attention to their diet. They were usually cruel and violent. They ate raw human flesh and drank beast blood. As a result, they got gastroenteritis from indigestion. They were in so much pain every day. However, they had eternal life and couldn't die. Needless to say, it was miserable. Although Lin Muyu felt that the 7 luminaries demon emperor was talking nonsense with a straight face, she still believed it. Anyway, it wasn't a bad thing. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi. Lin Muyu descended from the sky and threw the grizzly bear's body on the ground. She smiled and said, "We can stew bear paw soup tonight." Okay. Qin Yin smiled and said, "Big brother you, we still lack some onions and garlic. What should we do? Where can I find them? I'll make do." Okay. Fuzhou hugged his knees as he sat on a nearby hill. His deep eyes gazed into the distance, as if he was a peerless god standing on 1,000 feet. Of course, the truth of the matter was that he was responsible for keeping watch here. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to eat dinner. However, Fuzhou was indeed a refined ancient beast. His ethereal aura was not something that could be faked by ordinary people. For bear paws were thrown into the pot. Not long after, a very tempting aroma spread out. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were already hungry. They hadn't had a proper meal for many days. But at this moment, Fuzhou suddenly warned, "Master, someone broke in. They're coming very fast." The intruder's aura rushed straight in the direction of the secret room. Lin Muyu said, "Don't worry, it's one of us. They should be from the Spirit Sparrow territory. They know our specific location." Lightning flashed, and a person jumped down from the empty grassland. It was the Spirit Sparrow region's vice-region lord, Feng Zhanhai. He was in a very sorry state. The soft armor in front of his chest had been torn apart, and he was covered in blood. There was a ghastly sword wound on his left leg. After he landed, he staggered and could barely stand. "What's going on?" Lin Muyu rushed forward to support him. Feng Zhanhai said angrily, "Lin General, the Raging Fire territory is attacking the Spirit Sparrow territory. Many of our people have already been killed or injured. Why did they suddenly attack the Spirit Sparrow territory? Weren't you guys in harmony before?" Feng Zhanhai said, "Dongfang Yan said that 5 God Realm experts went missing in the Spirit Sparrow territory, including the God Emperor Qiu Yao. He suspects that they were plotted against by our people. So, Dongfang Yan said that if we don't hand over the people, they'll flatten the Spirit Sparrow territory within 3 days." Lin Muyu was stunned. She and Qin Yin looked at each other speechlessly. Feng Zhanhai also saw the clues. "Lin General, what's going on? Qiu Yao and the others were killed by us." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "Deputy Territory Lord, I'll go with you and explain to Dongfang Yan. If he's angry, he can take it out on me." Feng Zhanhai was stunned, then. "Okay, when do we leave?" "We'll leave after eating." Chapter 995. Deputy Region Lord, how many people did the Raging Fire region send? Qin Yin asked worriedly while holding a bowl of soup. Feng Zhanhai was also holding a bowl of soup, but he really did not have much of an appetite. He said with an ashen face, "They have a total of 12 God Emperors, a total of more than 500 God Realm experts, plus 20,000 servants. They have already blocked the few exits of Ling Ke region's domain castle. If we do not hand over the person in 3 days, they will destroy the barrier and kill us." Lin Muyu swallowed the soup and wiped her mouth. "Xiao Shi, give me another bowl." "Okay." Tang Xiaoxi happily went to get the soup. Shi Yan narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, "I'm afraid it's not that simple. The 5 God state experts are just an excuse for Dongfang Yan. His real intention is still to devour the entire Spirit Sparrow territory. Deputy Region Lord, what do you think?" Feng Zhanhai was silent for a while, then said, "As Lord Blazing Angel said, Dongfang Yan wants to annex the surrounding regions for a long time, but the Spirit Sparrow region is not a place to be needed. If he wants to eat it, he can eat it. Even if the Raging Fire region wants to eat the Spirit Sparrow region, they will have to break a few teeth. At that time, I'm afraid that the surrounding regions will divide the Raging Fire region. I don't think so. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, since Dongfang Yen dares to attack the Spirit Sparrow territory, he must be very confident. Besides, the forces he brought with him are not all of the Raging Fire territory. He is not afraid of the attacks of the other forces. Feng Zhanhai's expression was a bit ugly. Qin Yin's words hit the nail on the head. The Raging Fire region actually only needed to use half of its forces to destroy the Sparrow region. Moreover, Dongfang Yen had brought more than half of its forces. Moreover, Dongfang Yen himself was an expert who was about to become a perfected emperor god. Even Feng Zhanlin would not be able to match him. He was the biggest trump card. Lin General, what do you plan to do? Feng Zhanhai said, are you going to throw your life away like this? Who said I will throw my life away? I'm just going to tell Dongfang Yen that I killed him. If there's anything, he can come after me. Then I'll run. As long as Dongfang Yen can't catch up with me, it'll be fine. But Dongfang Yen is very resourceful. As long as he wants to find you, he can turn the surrounding area upside down. That's not necessarily true. We'll know once we take a look. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other. They both knew that this trip wouldn't be simple, but they had to go. After all, they were the ones who had caused the trouble, and they couldn't let the Spirit Sparrow region take the blame. As for how to escape, it was very simple. Two god emperors revolving samsara will could save their lives, not to mention that Lin Muyu had the divine book of the law of space in her hands. Even Dongfang Yen might not be able to kill her. After dinner, they brought Fu Zhu to the Spirit Sparrow region. 2 hours later, the Spirit Sparrow region's domain castle appeared in their vision. The night was filled with fog, but after Lin Muyu and the others gathered their divine power in their eyes, they could still see clearly. Sparks appeared on the ground outside the Spirit Sparrow region. They were torches. Tens of thousands of servants in armor were already in formation outside the domain castle, surrounding the entire Spirit Sparrow region so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. The servants were mortals. Although they couldn't be of much use, they could still strengthen their prestige. Lin Muyu frowned. Her gaze landed on the empty space in front of the army. There were hundreds of people standing there, all of them were god state experts. Among them, there was no lack of god emperors. Moreover, these people seemed to have already sensed the power of Lin Muyu and the others. Feng Zhanhai flew at the front and shouted, Eastern Region Lord, I'm Feng Zhanhai. Don't attack. On the ground, an old man in a white robe flew up slowly. His face was full of ridicule. Feng Zhanhai. Haven't you been taught a lesson? How dare you enter the domain castle so arrogantly? Feng Zhanhai said respectfully, I have brought a few distinguished guests. I hope Eastern Region Lord can accommodate us. The Sparrow Domain will naturally give you an explanation. We will. Let Feng Zhanlin come out and speak. Yes. Feng Zhanhai brought Lin Muyu and the others through the crowd and flew to the front of the domain castle. He shouted, Brother, I'm back. The gate of the domain castle slowly opened. Feng Zhanlin, wearing a suit of armor, walked out with everyone. He asked, Zhanhai, are you all right? I'm fine. Lin General and the others came back with me. Ah. Feng Zhanlin's face turned cold. You are so insensible. The Sparrow Domain is facing a disaster. You brought Lin General back with you. Aren't you bringing him along? Lin Muyu was moved. Feng Zhanlin didn't need to say that. In fact, we killed Dongfang Yan's people. We will bear the consequences ourselves. This. Feng Zhanlin gritted his teeth. How can you do that? Don't you know how strong they are? I know, but we must come. Let's go and meet Dongfang Yan. Okay. Everyone slowly walked to the front of the Raging Fire Territory's formation. Dongfang Yen and a few emperor gods of the Raging Fire territory with unfathomable cultivation also noticed Lin Muyu and the others. All of them were surprised. These young people seemed to have ordinary cultivation, but their breathing was long, making people feel like they couldn't see through them. Dongfang Yen said coldly, "Feng Zhanlin, have you thought it through? Do you think you can change anything by bringing a few helpers?" Feng Zhanlin said, "Dongfang Territory Lord, why are you so aggressive?" Dongfang Yen laughed out loud. "The strong are the kings, and the weak are the bandits. This is the rule that has never changed. Since the Ling Ke territory has captured my people, you should let them go. Otherwise, I will attack the Ling Ke territory tonight." "Wait." Lin Muyu took a step forward. Her eyes were cold. "Dongfang Territory Lord, the disappearance of your people has nothing to do with the Sparrow Domain. I killed them." "What did you say?" Dongfang Yen shouted in a low voice. "You think you can kill Qiu Yao? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk nonsense here?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly. She didn't say anything. Instead, she activated the divine power inside her body. Suddenly, the power of the Emperor Realm roared out. The invisible elephant spell rotated without any wind, forming a powerful domain around them. Even the Emperor Realm experts behind Dongfang Yen were forced to take a few steps back. They couldn't resist Lin Muyu's power. "Now, do I have the right to spout nonsense?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "Who are you?" "Little friend." Dongfang Yen squinted his eyes and asked. He knew that Lin Muyu was strong, but not strong enough to make him feel threatened. After all, there were hundreds of God Realm experts behind him. Moreover, Lin Muyu's aura was only at the 60th cave realm. She was just a rookie who had just entered the Emperor Realm. Lin Muyu, the left marshal of the East Heaven Realm. Lin Muyu said slowly. "From the East Heaven Realm?" Dongfang Yen clenched his fists slowly and smiled. "So you are from the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. No wonder you are so arrogant. But, so what? This is not the territory of the East Heaven. He can't control this. Moreover, how can you say that you killed Qiu Yao and the others?" Lin Muyu took out 2 pieces of godhood and said, "Here, these are the godhood of your subordinates. Do you recognize them?" Dongfang Yan's face changed dramatically. Lin Muyu's action was too provocative. Even the group of God Realm experts behind him couldn't help but become restless. They were all filled with righteous indignation. Lin Muyu continued, "I think the 64 domains should have their own rules. Eastern Domain Lord, your 5 subordinates suddenly attacked me and my companions, that's why we killed them. They only have themselves to blame, no one else can be blamed. If Eastern Domain Lord continues to be so aggressive, then you're being unreasonable." "Why should I be reasonable?" Dongfang Yen laughed. "If you kill the people of the Raging Fire territory, I will kill your whole clan. This is the rule of the Raging Fire territory." Everyone was ready to fight. Many of them had already taken out their weapons and magic tools. Lin Muyu looked calm and continued, "Then, I killed your people. Don't cause trouble for the Sparrow territory. Who do you think you are? Why do you have to set the rules of the 64 domains?" Behind Dongfang Yen, a young ultimate god couldn't help but curse, "Don't think that the people of the East Heaven are so great. Go back to your East Heaven and eat sh*t. This is the 64 domains, not a place where you can do whatever you want. Go away." The group of God Realm experts also cursed, "Go away." "Dongfang Territory Lord, what do you say?" Lin Muyu asked. Dongfang Yen said coldly, "I have my own rules. Since you are an honored guest of the Ling Sparrow territory, if you kill someone, the Ling Sparrow territory will also have to bear the responsibility. Otherwise, won't I, Dongfang Yen, be laughed at by the other forces in the 64 territories?" "So, you don't have any rules?" "Yes, my rule is to kill all those who offend me." Dongfang Yan's voice was cold as he pulled out his long sword. Lin Muyu was a little helpless. The people of the 64 domains really had no rules at all. Sorry to implicate you, Wind Territory Lord. Don't mention it. Feng Zhanlin smiled faintly and said while holding his sword, the Raging Fire Territory has long wanted to kill me, but now they have found a pretext. It is my honor to fight side by side with Lin General. Besides, the Sparrow Territory is not a pushover. How can we be destroyed by the Raging Fire Territory? Don't you think so, brothers? Behind him, the group of God Realm experts roared, fight with them. Lin Muyu smiled softly and said, it is also my honor to fight side by side with such an upright person like Wind Territory Lord. A big battle was imminent. Dongfang Yan's face was full of mockery. Feng Zhanlin, we have been fighting for hundreds of years. Now it is time to determine a winner. Come on, I will kill you within 100 moves. Feng Zhanlin did not say anything. He suddenly disappeared from where he was, and in the next moment, he had already slashed the sky full of flames. Boom! Flames bloomed in the sky. The two territory lords were already fighting. Lin Muyu pulled out the Xian Yuan sword without hesitation. He suppressed the anger in his heart and vented it through killing. Now he finally understood why Xiao called this place the Wild Mystic Land. The gods here were not ordinary savages. Chaos of all lives. The Xian Yuan sword surged with the light of the invisible elephant spell and swept through the crowd. In an instant, two ultimate gods turned into a mist of blood. They were killed instantly. Behind him, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Fuzhu also joined the battle. Just like that, a war between the gods began in the 64 domains. Chapter 996. Waves of scorching wind blew wildly in the air. Each wave was condensed by the power of a god realm expert and could kill without leaving a trace. Feng Zhanhai led nearly 100 god realm experts of the Ling Ke domain to form a human wall in front of the domain fortress. They had to protect the domain fortress. Otherwise, if the god realm experts from the Raging Fire domain destroyed the barrier of the domain fortress, then the domain fortress would lose all its value. Lin Muyu wielded the Xianyuan sword and slaughtered in the sky and on the ground. As long as the opponent wasn't a god emperor, she would be able to decide the winner within 3 to 5 moves. Both sides didn't hold back and each move was fatal. No one dared to hold back their strength. For a moment, the world was filled with the cries and wails of the gods. Broken divine sparks fell like falling stars. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin were like a single entity, protecting Shi Yan and standing in front of the Lingke castle. No matter how many people attacked, it was of no use. Especially when Qin Yin's destruction and pity were used consecutively, it was almost invulnerable. After stepping into the God Emperor realm, her Shi Yan's 7 slashes were much more powerful than before. The whistling sound of violence was incessant. Corpses of God realm experts kept falling from the sky. Lin Muyu activated her divine power and formed a tough diamond protective aura around her body, repelling all the external forces. Just like that, she stood in front of the domain fortress with her sword in hand, destroying the enemies that tried to attack for Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. For a moment, the world was filled with the cries of ghosts and gods. In less than 2 hours, countless god realm experts had died. The plains were littered with divine sparks and corpses. The 20,000 servants of the Raging Fire domain could only watch from afar. They were at daggers drawn, but they couldn't do anything to help. Their attacks were like tickles to the god realm experts, they were completely useless. Voila, the indestructible Xianyuan sword cleaved a heavily injured god king into 2 along with his shield. The Xianyuan sword did not even come into contact with him, only killing him with sword chi. Golden blood sprayed out like rain. Lin Muyu frowned as her heart became colder and colder, because there were fewer and fewer experts of the Sparrow region around her. If this continued, they would probably be wiped out in less than 2 hours. He was panting heavily. Even with his supreme being personality, it was difficult for him to sustain the continuous fierce battles. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Shi Yan looked even more exhausted. In the air, Feng Zhanlin was covered in blood, while his opponent, Dongfang Yan, was in a much better state, only suffering some light injuries. It's time. Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique could sense the strength of Dongfang Yan's aura. His strength had already been consumed by more than 30% by Feng Zhanlin. With just a little help, Dongfang Yan's attack might fail. I need someone to help me deter Dongfang Yan. Lin Muyu held her sword and retreated, leaning closely against Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, panting heavily. At the same time, golden blood flowed down from her ears. Unknowingly, she was also injured. She did not even notice the damage to the divine wall. The battle just now was too chaotic and intense. Capture the ringleader first to capture the followers? Qin Yin asked. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said in a low voice, I want to take advantage of the moment when Dongfang Yan wants to kill Feng Zhanlin. That is when his guard is at its weakest, but Dongfang Yan's people will not let me succeed so easily. His god emperors are all eyeing him, so. Xiao Yin, you have to use destruction and mercy to help me block these god emperors. Only then will I have a chance. Xiao Shi and I will attack together. Sister Xian and Fuzhu will be responsible for defending against the other gods. It's settled. Once I make a move, you guys make a move as well. They quickly nodded. Lin Muyu looked around and found that everyone was more or less injured. That was good. True strength was honed in life and death situations. This time, fighting the strong with the weak was originally a kind of training. People who always lived in a greenhouse would never become the best. In the air, the injuries on Feng Zhanlin's body increased, and his aura became weaker. As an 84th heavenly abode god emperor, Feng Zhanlin was only 4 heavens lower than Dongfang Yan, but his strength was at least 30% weaker. That was why he was still heavily injured by Dongfang Yan even with the help of many experts from the Sparrow region. Sword chi flew. Dongfang Yan stood proudly in the air. He put his palms together and used the power of sword chi to control the sword. The sword turned into flames and flew around Feng Zhanlin. Pooh! He dodged Feng Zhanlin's long saber with another slash, leaving a frightening wound on his leg. Still not giving in? Dongfang Yan looked down at the ground and said arrogantly, Your people are almost all dead. Feng Zhanlin, what are you holding on for? As long as you surrender to me, I am willing to make you the new Deputy Region Lord of the Raging Fire region. Take your people and surrender to me. Bah, you old man, stop daydreaming. Feng Zhanlin roared angrily and charged over with the 2 god kings. In the air, the sword light slashed across and golden blood splashed everywhere. The bodies of the 2 god kings of the Spirit Sparrow region were slowly separated. With their strength, they were completely unable to resist Dongfang Yan's attack. The power of the flying sword he controlled was truly not to be underestimated. Feng Zhanlin's long saber fell from the sky with the momentum of Mount Tai. Dongfang Yan's face was full of smiles. Do you think I only have one sword? With that, another flying sword flew out from behind Dongfang Yan and forcefully shook off Feng Zhanlin's long saber. The previous flying sword came from behind and pierced through Feng Zhanlin's abdomen, causing blood to spurt out. Stubborn fool, since you are not willing to surrender, then die. Dongfang Yan's eyes were full of killing intent. His 2 swords spun left and right, creating a storm and attacking. At this moment, Feng Zhanlin's heart was filled with a strong sense of death. He had even given up resisting. His speed could not keep up with Dongfang Yan's flying sword. No matter what, he could not resist. Wind Region Lord. A voice came from below, causing Feng Zhanlin's heart to tremble. This voice was very familiar. It was Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu's figure appeared on Feng Zhanlin's left like lightning and swept the Xianyuan sword. She was also well versed in the art of flying swords and was much more familiar with the trajectory of flying swords than Feng Zhanlin. She accurately judged the Xianyuan sword and shook off the flying sword on the left. At the same time, she passed by Feng Zhanlin's right side and raised her sword again, knocking off both of Dongfang Yan's swords in almost half a second. Everything in the world, listen to my command. Silently chanting, Lin Muyu completely sealed the surrounding space, making it impossible for people to escape. At the same time, she gently raised her left hand and shouted, "Whirlwind." Taking advantage of the momentum, a fierce wind raged, wrapping around Dongfang Yan's body like a tornado. Presumptuous. Dongfang Yan had never suffered such humiliation, so he punched the storm away. But at the moment when the storm dispersed, Lin Muyu, who was holding the Xianyuan's sword, attacked like lightning. The Xianyuan's sword was like an indestructible golden lightning, striking at Dongfang Yan's neck. Arrogant. Dongfang Yan sneered, raised his hand to grab the flying sword that was flying towards him, and threw it at the Xianyuan sword. Dang! The flying sword was bounced back a little. The strength of the two sides was actually equal. How is this possible? Dongfang Yan's heart was cold. He never thought that a mere 60th level Dongtian Divine Emperor could actually block his attack. But Lin Muyu did not say anything. The Xianyuan sword drew a golden trajectory, and in an instant, she made 7 or 8 strikes, each strike was fatal. Dongfang Yan even had to use both of his flying swords to block Lin Muyu's attack. If Dongfang Yan's fighting style was like a mountain, then Lin Muyu was like a monstrous flood. Her storm-like attacks kept shaking the mountain that was Dongfang Yan, and each strike was stronger than the previous one, making it hard for him to defend. Territory Lord. A group of raging fire region god emperors and god kings were all shocked, and they rushed over with their weapons. Swoosh. The light in the sky expanded, and a beautiful woman with 4 golden wings appeared in front of them. She waved her sword, and millions of golden dragon crystals fell from the sky. Go, help the territory lord. A middle-aged emperor god roared, and the battle axe in his hand smashed a few dragon crystals, and then he chopped at Qin Yin's white neck. Qin Yin raised her head and looked at him. Her blazing dawn eyes surged with the power of the domain, causing the god emperor to feel uneasy all over. And as the star's sword surged, it brought with it a destructive power. Bang! The sword knocked back the battle axe, and the emperor god's mind was in chaos, but the other emperor gods also flew away. Qin Yin instantly withdrew her sword, and she stopped in the air like a beautiful statue. The territory was quiet, as if time and space had stopped. The 4th strike of Shi Yan's 7 strikes, pity. The group of emperor gods couldn't move, and they all looked at Qin Yin, dumbfounded. And in the field of vision of the emperor gods, a ball of fire rushed towards Dongfang Yan, and in that fire was a beautiful and demonic woman, the 9-tailed demon fox Tang Xiaoxi. The dig spear attacked, and Dongfang Yan had to defend himself. He quickly used his sword to block, but the moment Dongfang Yan blocked Tang Xiaoxi, the opportunity that Lin Muyu had been waiting for finally came. Without any moves, the Xianyuan sword stabbed into Dongfang Yan's abdomen at the fastest speed, and pierced through the wall, and blood splattered. Wah! Dongfang Yan groaned, and the sword in his right hand went straight for Lin Muyu's neck. Of course, Lin Muyu wouldn't die with him. She suddenly leaned back to avoid the attack, and her right leg drew a beautiful arc in the air, and she kicked Dongfang Yan's injured abdomen heavily. It was even faintly visible that his intestines were about to spill out. Dongfang Yan retreated quickly, and with a sudden shake of his arms, he used his profound cultivation to repel Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi's attacks, and dove to the ground, and shouted, "Everyone, stop the enemy." On the ground, the experts of the Raging Fire region were stunned by Shi Yan and Fuzhu. But even so, Dongfang Yan still escaped from the death zone controlled by Lin Muyu. Damn it! Lin Muyu held the Xianyuan sword, and looked in Dongfang Yan's direction. She didn't expect that he would still escape. Dongfang Yan also looked at Lin Muyu through the crowd. This young god emperor was like a divine soldier descending from the heavens, but he was so powerful that even his helpers were so difficult to deal with. Retreat! Dongfang Yan ordered without hesitation. Chapter 997. In the night sky, the people of the Raging Fire region retreated like a tide, turning into meteors in the sky and disappearing. However, the servants on the ground did not move so fast. They all looked panicked as they galloped back, trampling each other and causing countless casualties. Balls of divine power illuminated everything outside the castle. The people of the Sparrow region naturally did not dare to chase after them. They were much weaker than their opponents. If they chased after them, Dongfang Yen would order them to turn back and attack, and the strength of the Sparrow region would be greatly reduced. Cough, cough, cough. After Feng Zhanlin landed on the ground, he coughed violently. His face was pale and the wounds on his body were still bleeding. However, he was not the most miserable. Feng Zhanhai's injuries were even more severe. At most, Feng Zhanhai could fight 4 god emperors alone. It was already a miracle that he did not die. Looking at the corpses on the ground, the Sparrow region and the Raging Fire region were evenly divided. The Raging Fire region had many people and could afford to die, but the Sparrow region was different. This battle had really hurt them. For a moment, Feng Zhanlin's eyes were full of desolation. He could not help but kneel down and cry, "Father, Feng Zhanlin is unfilial. I failed to protect the great cause you left behind. Feng Zhanlin has let down the ancestors of the Sparrow region, brother." Feng Zhanhai walked over with the help of a servant. He frowned and said, "You have not let down the ancestors. You have tried your best." It was the Raging Fire region that was too overbearing. Besides, this battle, the Raging Fire region had the momentum to win, but they were defeated. Our Sparrow region was not defeated. Feng Zhanlin slowly stood up and came to Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. He said respectfully, "Lin General, thank you. Otherwise, the Sparrow region would not have been able to escape this disaster. Thank you Lin General for defeating Dongfang Yen. Otherwise, today would have been the day of the Sparrow region's extinction." "I, Feng Zhanlin, thank you on behalf of the entire Sparrow region," Lin Muyu said lightly. "You don't have to thank me, Territory Master. If you hadn't consumed Dongfang Yan's power, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to succeed. The most important thing now is to treat the wounded quickly and regroup. The Raging Fire territory won't give up the attack on the Sparrow territory so easily. If everything goes well, Dongfang Yen will come back after he recovers." Feng Zhanlin's face was ashen. "Yes, I understand. Men, collect the corpses of the dead and treat the wounded immediately." "Yes, Region Lord." Feng Zhanlin turned around. "Lin General and the ladies are also injured. Please rest in the castle." "Yes." Lin Muyu and the others really needed to rest. After entering the domain castle, they stayed in their original places, applying medicine and healing their wounds. In the early hours of the next day, cries could be heard from every corner of the castle. Too many people had died in the battle last night, and the population of the Sparrow territory was small to begin with. Many people had lost their loved ones, so it was inevitable for them to cry. Dong dong dong, there was a knock on the door. A maid said respectfully, "Is Lin General awake?" Lin Muyu opened her eyes and moved her body slightly. She felt a sharp pain from her wounds. She said, "Yes, what's the matter?" The maid said, "Region Lord asked me to bring you the Ling Lang fruit, a spirit fruit that can speed up the healing of wounds." "Got it. Leave it outside." "Yes." As the footsteps faded away, Lin Muyu was still lying on the bed. Beside him, Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin were sleeping soundly in his arms. Everyone had been injured last night and needed Lin Muyu's healing power, so he had enjoyed a night of bliss. It was just that his injured body couldn't enjoy it at all. Carefully pushing away Qin Yin's arm, Lin Muyu tried to sit up but found Tang Xiaoxi's snow-white leg across his body. This girl was always so restless when she slept. He lifted Tang Xiaoxi's snow-white leg and carefully moved it away, but Tang Xiaoxi seemed to be dreaming of something. She opened her arms and hugged him even tighter. A pair of proud peaks pressed against Lin Muyu's chest. "Damn it." Lin Muyu had no choice but to kiss her on the lips and whispered, "Okay, I'll go get breakfast." Only then did Tang Xiaoxi loosen her grip and continue to fall asleep. There was indeed a plate of fruit on the ground outside. It was linglang fruit, a spirit fruit that had a miraculous healing effect. However, there were not many of them. It could be imagined that most of the wounded in the sparrow domain didn't have the right to eat it. Lin Muyu put the fruit in the room with a guilty conscience, so he put on his cloak and walked out. It was good for his injuries to heal more. In the garden corridor, Feng Zhanlin was strolling. There were also 3 god emperors and Feng Zhanhai. They all looked very dispirited. When they saw Lin Muyu, they immediately came up and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Lin General." Lin Muyu hurriedly said, "Domain Lord, no need to be so polite. Why is Lin General up so early?" "I can't sleep." "Isn't it the same for Domain Lord? How much strength did we lose last night?" "Nearly half." Feng Zhanlin's face was very ugly. "If Dongfang Yan invades again, I'm afraid we won't have enough strength to resist the Raging Fire Domain. In fact, the Raging Fire Domain's losses are not small." "Oh?" Feng Zhanlin was stunned. "What does Lin General mean? Is there a deeper meaning?" Lin Muyu smiled. "What I'm saying is, if the Wind Region Lord wants to fight against the Raging Fire Region with the power of the realm of Soul Sparrow alone, then the realm of Soul Sparrow will definitely perish. The only way for the realm of Soul Sparrow to survive is to unite." "Unite?" "Yes, there are other domains near the Sparrow Domain. They must have been bullied by the Raging Fire Domain for a long time, right?" "This." Feng Zhanlin frowned. "There are 2 domains near the Sparrow Domain. One is the Celestial Foothill Domain, and the other is the Golden Dragon Domain. The Golden Dragon Domain has been bullied the most. The people from the Raging Fire Domain have attacked the Golden Dragon Domain's castle twice. Even the Domain Lord of the Golden Dragon Domain, Wu, was forced to marry his daughter, Wuyu, to Dongfang Yan." "It can't be." Lin Muyu was shocked. "Dongfang Yan is already so old. How can he take a concubine?" Feng Zhanlin said, "Yes, Dongfang Yan knows how to collect yin to nourish yang. It is said that he has dozens of wives and concubines in the castle. The mental cultivation method he practices is called the 5 yang sword technique. The word yang emphasizes the harmony of yin and yang, so the 5 yang sword technique is very fierce and overbearing. I think Lin General has seen its power." "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. "Many of us have died under the 5 yang sword technique. According to Domain Lord Feng, we can unite with the Golden Dragon Domain. Once the 2 weak domains unite, we may be able to compete with the Raging Fire Domain." Feng Zhanlin frowned. "It's not that I don't want to, but I have no choice." "Why?" "This has been going on for a long time. A few years ago, I tried to persuade Domain Lord Wu Feng, but he refused. Wu Feng is very stubborn and doesn't want to cooperate with others. His son, Wu Su, is a real playboy. He is arrogant and has a bad reputation. So even if I want to ally with the Golden Dragon Domain, I'm afraid the Golden Dragon Domain will not be willing to cooperate with us." "How strong is the Golden Dragon Domain?" "We're considered the weakest among the regions in the south. We have a total of 5 Emperor Gods, 22 Divine Kings, and more than 200 Ultimate Gods. However, our Sparrow territory lost too many people last night, so our current strength should be similar to the Golden Dragon territory. Domain Lord, are you willing to go with us to persuade the Golden Dragon Domain again?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Feng Zhanlin was stunned. "Lin General still wants to ally with the Golden Dragon Domain?" "It's not that I want to, but I have to do it." Lin Muyu pondered for a moment before her eyes glinted. "If the Golden Dragon Realm is willing to ally with us, that would be for the best. If not, we'll destroy the Golden Dragon Realm and forcefully take over their forces." Feng Zhanlin was shocked. "This. I'm afraid it will start a war." "The war has already begun. Don't you know, Domain Lord?" This, Feng Zhanlin thought for a few seconds and said, "All right, I understand. When do we go to the Golden Dragon domain? We leave at noon and arrive in the afternoon. All right. When it was almost noon, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yin, Shi Yan, and the others woke up. They dressed up and set off with Lin Muyu, Feng Zhanlin, and Feng Zhanhai to the Golden Dragon domain. The distance between the Golden Dragon domain and the Sparrow domain was more than 300 kilometers. Most of the way was desert, and it was currently summer. The group avoided the areas where the wind saw was and carefully flew through the mountains in the desert. When it was close to dusk, the desert finally disappeared from the horizon. It was replaced by an area of the Gobi Desert, and a dense forest could be seen in front of them. The weather in the primordial mystery land was very abnormal, and the geographical environment was often unexpected. The originally impossible terrain could be connected, but Feng Zhanlin and the others were already used to it. Not long after, there were signs of people in the forest ahead. There were even paths in the forest, and they could vaguely see white and blue flags fluttering in the air. It was cavalry. Soon, they could hear the sound of hooves. There are cavalry in the Golden Dragon domain? Lin Muyu frowned. Yes. Feng Zhanlin smiled. Although the Golden Dragon domain is one of the weakest among the 64 domains, it has a large number of local servants. The domain castle of the Golden Dragon domain is also quite large, with more than 200,000 servants living there. Wu Feng and his son covet these mortal pleasures, so they formed a large army and forged armor to protect their territory. In addition, it is said that they built a city on a large scale, and there are countless mortal beauties inside. Lin Muyu frowned and did not say anything. But not long after, they could see wooden stakes erected on the side of the road. The wood was still new, indicating that it had just been made. There were cries coming from under the stakes. Many people dressed like commoners were being pointed at by the cavalry with swords. There were already people who had been killed on the stakes along the way. The bodies were nailed there, and some were even twitching. What's going on? Lin Muyu was a little surprised. Feng Zhanlin said, "This is the execution of the people from the Golden Dragon domain. Should we go down and take a look? Let's go." Chapter 998. The pain of a nail being driven into the wrist was unbearable for most people. Many people were just nailed to the wooden stakes, waiting for their blood to run dry and die. It was extremely cruel, so much so that some of the people who hadn't been nailed to death were crying crazily. Not far away, a man sobbed and knelt on the ground, crying. "Stand up, you piece of trash." The knight pointed his cold sword at him. The man refused to get up until the knight's sword pierced his back. Only then did he stand up, trembling. His eyes were red as he said, "I don't want to die, I really don't want to die." The knight sneered, "Do you think you can stay alive just because you don't want to die?" At this moment, a few figures descended from the sky. It was Lin Muyu and the others. People who descended from the sky must be gods. There was no doubt about it. The group of knights from the Golden Dragon domain dismounted and knelt down. "Greetings, gods. May I know which domain you are from?" Feng Zhanlin said lightly, "I am Feng Zhanlin from the Sparrow domain." The leader of the knights was a middle-aged man with a big beard. He was startled for a moment, then smiled. "So it is the domain lord of the Sparrow domain. What brings the domain lord to our Golden Dragon domain?" "Just passing by." Feng Zhanlin looked at the prisoners being executed along the way and asked, "Sir Knight, what crimes have these people committed? Who gave the order to punish them?" The captain of the knights grinned. "Oh, this is the order of the young region master to punish these criminals. As for their crimes, when the young region master was building the palace in the castle, these lowly people were slacking off and embezzling the funds for the construction of the palace. Well, at least most of them were punished because of this, but this one is different." Lin Muyu was surprised. "How is he different?" The leader of the knights took a deep look at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "You may not know this, but this boy is a manservant in the courtyard. Originally, he was only in charge of cleaning the courtyard and serving tea. However, yesterday, he dared to break the young master's favorite moonlight cup while he was cleaning. So, in a fit of rage, the young master decided to execute him by cutting his waist. Cut him in half? Qin Yin frowned. What a cruel punishment. The captain smiled and said, Miss, being cut at the waist is already considered a light punishment. In our Golden Dragon domain, there are dozens of other punishments, such as blinding, pouring silver, amputating the wrist, molting the skin, and torturing the heart. You want to kill someone just for breaking a cup? Tang Xiaoxi didn't understand. Yes. These are the rules of the Golden Dragon domain. These untouchables are just servants. They were born to serve the gods of the Golden Dragon domain, but if they dare to rebel, they will be killed. This is the rule of iron and blood, and there will be no compromise. This has been the rule of the Golden Dragon domain for thousands of years, and it has never changed. Lin Muyu sneered, no wonder the Golden Dragon realm has never been able to grow stronger. It has always been so weak. What did you say? A young cavalryman on a white horse immediately drew his sword and pointed it at Lin Muyu. I dare you to say that again. Who do you think you are? How dare you insult the rules of our Golden Dragon domain in our territory? Lin Muyu didn't get angry with him. She just waved her hand and said with a smile, I am who I am. Why? Can't you scold the rules of the Golden Dragon domain? How dare you? The young cavalryman's sword fell from the air. Clang! With a crisp sound, Lin Muyu only drew the Xianyuan sword an inch out of its sheath, but the edge of the sword met the cavalryman's sword and broke it. The cold airflow blew out and threw the young cavalryman off his horse. He was at most in the heaven realm, so how could he compare with a celestial emperor like Lin Muyu? Instead, it was the captain who shouted, Wu Yong, do you want to die? How dare you offend a god? You must be tired of living. As he said this, he hurriedly apologized, God, I'm really sorry. My subordinate is young and ignorant, so he offended you. Please don't argue with this idiot. Lin Muyu smiled. Don't worry, I won't get angry with an ant. But Sir Cavalryman, can't these people be pardoned? Must they be killed? No. The captain's voice was calm. If I pardon them and spare their lives, I'm afraid that I'll be the one to die if the young lord pursues the matter. Moreover, as a soldier of the Golden Dragon domain servant army, I have to obey the young lord's orders. So, please don't make things difficult for me. These criminals in front of me must die. Immediately, the young man who broke the moonlight cup hurriedly crawled forward and hugged Lin Muyu's boots. He cried loudly, God, save me, save me. I still have a 12-year-old sister who has no one to take care of. If I die, my sister will starve to death or become someone else's concubine. Please save me, God. Lin Muyu was ruthless when she killed people, but when facing helpless people, she couldn't help but feel compassion. She raised her head and said, Sir Knight, I want to protect the dozens of criminals in front of me in the name of the Spirit Sparrow region. Can I? If they cause any damage to the Golden Dragon domain, I'll talk to the young master face to face and ask for compensation or other solutions. The captain frowned. This, Feng Zhanlin said coldly, what, can't I? Behind him, the dozen or so gods brought by Feng Zhanhai all pulled out their swords and bows. If they really fought, the Golden Dragon domain's cavalrymen would probably be completely wiped out. The captain had no choice but to cup his fists and said, then, please follow me back to the domain castle. This way, I can answer to the young master. What do you think? Okay. Lin Muyu readily agreed. Thus, the group of people escorted the prisoners and followed the cavalry to the domain castle. When the sun completely set in the west, a huge golden castle appeared in the wilderness. The Golden Dragon domain, just like its name suggested, there was a huge dragon head carved on the gate of the domain castle. It was made of pure gold, and just the dragon head alone cost at least 300 kilograms of gold. The richness of the Golden Dragon domain could be seen from this. Lin Muyu looked up at the golden dragon head with mixed feelings. Although this ancient secret territory was the residence of the gods, it had not completely broken away from the customs of mortals. In fact, it was better than mortals, and the attacks between the gods were the same as mortals. The only difference between the gods and mortals was their strength, but there was no essential difference. The living facilities in the domain castle were very simple. Homeless people could be seen eating cold steamed buns and poor people suffering from all kinds of illnesses. In stark contrast, there was a golden palace in the distance. The Golden Dragon Palace was the center of the Golden Dragon domain, and also the residence of Wu Feng, Wu Su, and other rulers. The young master is playing in the garden. Hee, gods, please wait here. I'll go in and inform him. The captain said respectfully. The garden was a garden behind the Golden Dragon Palace Hall. It was elegant and unique. Green vines crawled along the black and white brick walls, and flowers decorated them from time to time. The palace walls were 5 meters tall, even taller than the palace walls of the Zetian Palace Hall. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin couldn't help but look at each other. This small golden dragon domain really knew how to enjoy life even more than the emperors of the mortal world. A few minutes later, the captain came back and said, "Gods, the young master said that only the Feng domain lord can go in. The others are not qualified to see the young master." Feng Zhanlin's face turned cold. What does that mean? Does the puny Wu Su really think he's the emperor of the Golden Dragon domain? Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He suddenly swung his right hand and the hilt of the Xianyuan sword slammed open the iron gate. The invisible elephant spell spread out, forcing the servants and guards to kneel. He stepped into the garden with Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Shi Yan. The guards along the way didn't dare to be vigilant, but they all knelt under the control of the invisible elephant spell. Who is so bold? Not far away, 2 people in golden armor rushed over. They were 2 godly state experts. It just so happened that Lin Muyu also wanted to see how strong the gods of the Golden Dragon domain were. Unfortunately, the 2 ultimate gods were unbelievably weak. They could barely move forward after stepping into the domain realm when they were within 50 meters of Lin Muyu. When they were within 10 meters of Lin Muyu, they were already panting heavily with their faces turning pale. "Kneel," Lin Muyu said lightly. Plop, plop, the 2 gods knelt on the ground. Their faces were full of surprise, but it turned into awe. It was a natural reverence for someone stronger. They said respectfully, "Is it the Emperor God?" Lin Muyu didn't answer. She just led the people of the Linke domain into the depths of the garden. In the distance, there were sounds of laughter and people moving among the flowers. Under the flower racks made of rare flowers and fruits, a dozen or so beautiful maids were sitting on the jade steps. They wore thin silk clothes, and their exquisite and enchanting figures were faintly discernible. In the middle of the jade steps, a young man in a golden robe was lying. His head was resting on the white and slender legs of a maid, and he was hugging a woman on each side. His hands were moving up and down the women, and he was even humming a tune. He seemed very uncomfortable. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Shi Yan's faces immediately turned ugly. As women, they were most unwilling to see such a scene of a man enslaving a woman. The leader of the cavalry hurriedly went forward and said, "Young lord, they broke in." "What?" Wu Su turned around and stood up from the group of beauties. His face was considered handsome, but he looked sick. He raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "Feng Zhanlin, you broke into my garden without permission. What is the meaning of this?" "Nothing. I'm just helping old Master Wu Feng discipline his useless son." Feng Zhanlin stepped forward and slapped Wu Su's face with his fingers like lightning. He was immediately pushed back nearly 10 meters. Bastard. Wu Su had never suffered such humiliation before. As he slid back along the ground, he controlled his external force and quickly spread out a domain that only a god emperor could possess. Raging flames surged out of his body as he said angrily, "Feng Zhanlin, how dare you come to my Golden Dragon domain and behave atrociously? You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."